You're good at reminding us anyway.
Yes, yes, she is. Good evening, and welcome to the City Council regular meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is now 6:30. Please stand for the flag salute, and if our Mayor Pro Tem can lead us.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember Perez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Present.
and Mayor McQueen-Lejeune.
Here. We are going to move to our inspiration that's going to be given by our Councilmember Gama this evening.
Have a little PowerPoint. Let me see if I can speak Gaelic. Benethi na Fela Padric Gort. That means Happy St. Patty's Day, or St. Patrick's Day, I should say. So who is St. Patrick? He was a guy, actually a bishop, that brought Christianity to Ireland. And how did he do that? He did it with a shamrock. Why the shamrock? Well, it had 3 leaves, and it was a very simple yet effective way to express the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he turned a nation, Ireland, which was a pagan nation, into a highly religious Christian country. And everybody goes green, and I got this ridiculous green jacket on, which is suitable for today, but maybe not any other day. But rivers turn green, buildings turn green. Ventura had a parade this weekend. Everybody's Irish for the day, and guess what I had for lunch today? I bet many of you did as well. Even Moscow gets into it nowadays. Moscow hosts a parade, St. Patrick's Parade. The first parade was in 1992, and ever since 1999, there's been a yearly St. Patrick's Day festival in Moscow, which is interesting. A couple great Irish leaders of our time, John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan. Orvine Carpenter, he was mainly Scottish. He had a little bit of Irish, but at his funeral the other day, his great-great-nephew, who is pictured here, Nicholas, had a shamrock tie on. I thought, oh, how appropriate. So he joins us today in our inspiration. So a friend of mine, Irish immigrant Mikey De La Hunte, he immigrated from Ireland to the United States. He came to Boston, and then he eventually settled here in Port Hueneme. And he worked at the top deck. This is not the top deck. He worked at the top deck for a very long time, saving all his tips, and eventually he opened a bar. And it's kind of interesting for an Irish immigrant to open a bar called The Local. And so he opened the bar in Camarillo, and this is a little video he put together. I asked him, hey, could you come to our council meeting and be a part of this inspiration? He says, no, because I'm very busy on St. Patrick's Day in an Irish pub. That makes sense. But we did cut this video, and I want to share it with you right now. Do we have a volume? Can we start over? There we go. Yeah? Oh.
The chief has.
I see Curtis coming in. I think he'll see if he can get the volume.
It's really nice little video. Hope we get to see it or hear it.
You know, if you'd wear this jacket more to karaoke, you'd sound better.
This jacket's only for tonight. Oh boy.
Can hear.
So the local's in Camarillo, and he also owns the Beachcomber. His goal of having a pub is for everyone to come and be treated as friends and family. He's been in business for 7 years out in Camarillo, has a large collection of whiskey, some of which go for $90+ a shot, if you could believe that. He has really good staff, and they've been able to carve out a little niche market. And recently he bought the Beachcomber. Well, okay. So we'll just let it play through, and I'll kind of read the subtitle here in Camarillo Springs. It's been there 7 years. First opened it, it was just beer and wine. After a couple years, year and a half, he was successful getting a liquor license. He's a whiskey lover, he's Irish. So as soon as he got the license, he started building a selection of whiskeys. He's got whiskeys from all over the world, including Kentucky, Ireland, Japan, Taiwan. We have a strong focus on handmade craft cocktails as well. Very extensive menu during classic cocktails. House creations. Everybody that comes here hopefully feels like they're wanted and needed, and they become a part of our family too. And if you're around, pop on by. How are the celebrations at St. Patrick's Day in America versus Ireland? It's a little different here in America compared to Ireland. Don't get me wrong, we party just like the Americans do. But we also focus on the importance of St. Patrick himself as a person, as a saint, and what he did for Ireland, what he did for Christianity. Ireland at the time was this pagan nation. He used the shamrock to spread Christianity, using the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And from obviously there, Irish immigrants, we spread all over the world, and we brought Christianity with us. What do you credit your success in America, Irish immigrant? I think being an Irish immigrant helped me in the sense that I brought part of my Irish culture to Camarillo Springs, sharing culture and creating a place like family. Would you own a business in the city of Port Hueneme? Port Hueneme for sure. When I first got to America, I landed in Boston. After a few years, I left Boston and came to Port Hueneme, where I worked, where I met my wife, and a lot of my best friends are from Port Hueneme. I have a very strong connection to Port Hueneme. I think if the opportunity ever arose to build an authentic little Irish pub, yeah, definitely I would be up for it. I believe Port Hueneme has a strong community as it is, and it would make sense to open a small, authentic, little Irish pub to give back to the community that made me feel so at home. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you, the local sometimes, Slancha. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We'll now move to public comments that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The process will be the same when we hear the comments pertaining to the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments tonight?
Yes. We'll first start with Becky Bruning and then followed by Martin Erickson.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff, and audience. I'm here representing Rokapi Outdoors. This Sunday is our fish day out at the end of Hueneme Pier from 8 to 11. So bring your kids out and they can learn how to fish. I'm going to switch hats and I'm representing the Hueneme Sister Cities. We're having our first fundraiser dinner on Tuesday the 25th at Orvine Carpenter Community Center. Tickets are $25 each, and you can get those online at our website. Thank you.
Martin
Have-
Erickson.
Hold on just one second.
Oh.
You have a question?
A question.
Okay, go.
Oh,
Just really,
Becky, real question. What do the proceeds from the fundraiser go to? Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you.
thank you,
just for the record, that was to go to one of the local students.
thank you.
Good evening, Mayor McQueen Lejeune, Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, members of the City Council. My name is Martin Erickson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Ventura County Transportation Commission, VCTC. Happy St. Patrick's Day again to all of you, especially those resplendent in green. It is an honor to be back at the City of Port Hueneme. The Transportation Commission is a special district created by the state that basically serves as the funding conduit for nearly all of the state and federal transportation and transit funding that comes into Ventura County. And I serve a 17-member board, which includes the 5 county supervisors and a mayor or council member from each of the 10 cities in Ventura County. And the city of Port Hueneme is very ably represented by your mayor, Mayor McQueen Lejeune, who is also serving as our vice chair this year for VCTC. So I'm very grateful to her for the time she spends with her fellow commissioners, sometimes grappling over what can be difficult decisions and how to allocate the money that flows through our agency. But I'm proud to be here tonight to share with you our annual Community Impact Report, which I just shared with my commission at our last meeting. I've left copies with the clerk for all of you, also some copies in the front for the public. But basically, this is a kind of a snapshot of the many things VCTC does, beyond just the big blue buses that provide regional service, the Metrolink system, the Amtrak train. We also provide the Freeway Service Patrol. Hopefully, you haven't had to experience that service, but that is a free service of roving tow trucks on the 101 and the 118, and they will, for free, fix a flat tire. If you have a flat, they will tow you to a safe location. If you have a breakdown, they'll even provide you with a free gallon of gas if you run out of gas. So that has been one of our most recent and most successful programs. Another program that we are extremely proud of is our Access for All. That is a county-wide wheelchair accessible service for any member of the county that we put together with a state grant we received just a few years ago. That's also been very well received in filling some of the gaps in our transit system, especially for those folks who have paratransit needs and need wheelchair service. But it's obviously been a tricky year with funding. I'm happy to report our finances are in very strong shape going forward, and I hope they continue that way. But again, I just wanted to share this report with you, and again, thank the mayor for serving the city on our commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson.
Apologies if I mispronounce this, but Dawood Mustafa Ali. I hope that was right.
Most people do mispronounce it. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and the rest of the City Council, and to the audience. I would like to commend Madam Mayor and your council members for the swift action that came about when I shared my concern about parking. Some of the people who park their cars on the corners, so that when you are approaching the corner to make a turn, a right turn specifically, you can't see pedestrians approaching the crosswalk. And after I shared that concern with you, I saw citations being issued to cars. Most of them are Jeeps and trucks that are very high. And so when you approach the corner, you cannot see pedestrians coming across the street, and you can hardly see cars that are coming eastbound, coming from the west, going eastbound in Pleasant Valley. I'm talking about that specifically. And so, you know, I was so awed when I saw the citation on a specific vehicle that was always in the way. So I commend you all for that swift action. And the funny thing, 2 Sundays ago when I was going home, I live on C Street, and I was turning the corner, and I saw parking enforcement right there on a Sunday issuing citations. And I rolled my window down and I said, good, and she gave me the thumbs up. So I commend you all for the swift action that you've taken, and I appreciate it. You probably saved somebody's life or some tragic incidents from happening with pedestrians. So I commend you for the swift action. I would stay for the meeting, rest of the meeting, but I have a meeting to attend to myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And while we're thanking people, I just want to thank the staff as well, and the police department and all those who participated in helping us do that swiftly. So thank you so much.
Greg Ross.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Rockin' the green, I love it. I'm Scottish, but it's okay. My wife is Irish. I'm going to start with this. Hopefully, I can find it on my phone. It's an audio recording of the port at 11:55 p.m. and it was March the 6th. $11:55. That's what we hear in our neighborhood. And I've got others, but that's one just as an example. So you all have, I hope, a copy of this. It's an article. I did not search this on a Google search or anything. It came to me. BBC is saying that noise pollution causes heart attacks, type 2 diabetes, and has links to dementia. And that's what we get when we live in a high density right next to the port. It's not right. And the port is just not a good neighbor. I've been to their Harbor District Commission meetings and asked, and Commissioner Rooney wrote it down, but nothing's happened. That was 2 months ago. Here's what I'm asking for. A sign put out front for the truckers. The truckers are not our friend either. They're not, they don't belong to the port, but they're hired by the port. Okay, so I'm just asking for something like this. And so far, the Harbor District Commission are being very, they're standing in the way of being a good neighbor. So here's what's really gets to me a lot. Every single member on that Harbor District Commissioners are all in Oxnard. None are in Port Hueneme. That's not democracy. We should have at least, based on the population of Oxnard versus Port Hueneme, we should have at least one member on that commission, and we don't. It's not right. It's not democratic, and they don't listen. When I talk to you all, I love it because you look at me. When I talk to them, they're looking at their phone, they're looking down. It's not right. And then they want to argue whether they live in Oxnard or they live in Silver Strand. Okay, well, I said my piece. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Cesar Estrada.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Especially to the mayor, to the mayor pro tem, and to the city manager, and to the.
Mr. Estrada, can you pull the microphone closer to you? Thank
you. My topic or agenda for tonight is very short. It's about a project of an old timer. Of something like employment generation. This starts from a little gardening, like from our houses. It's been sponsored by UCANR California Ventura. They have this 4-H club and gardening currently. But beyond that, if we succeed on this grant that we're proposing for UCANR, they have the very small grants for starting up some home gardening and 4-H club. We know everyone here knows Port Wainimi also is a garden paradise or farming. Most of the lands here still for farm, for either strawberry, but all kinds of vegetables maybe, or food production. So I'm coming from also from the Navy, short time, and in the transportation. But during my transportation years, I do freight hauling for bananas and all kinds of strawberries or whatever you name it. It's all produced here in this basin. Now, to make it short, there's like, I've seen like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 grants that could be available for public as employment generation. If we only start on these small grants from UCANR of about like the highest is the 25,000. It could multiply later on for the public in a big. On this all this that I want to spread it all to you, to your emails, so you can read all about the grants that are available through not just the California Conservation, but from USDA. These are valid grants for in the millions or could be B later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dulce Sutterfield.
Good evening, council members. I'm going to start with the conclusion I decided. So, council members, the 50th anniversary of Surfside 3 Owners Association is looming. It's just less than 8 months away. We won't aim for speech making or photo ops, but one or more of you may be invited to a modest shindig. Okay, so 50 years, that's a lot. But looking back, just at November, I aired 5 questions, and none of them were answered. They were numbered 1 through 5, and then the broader questions also unanswered. But 2 of those questions I'm probing now, so if I come up with facts, I will share them with you, with whatever I find, if you're interested. Anyway, none of the questions I asked in November were about sandbags, but this winter there was quite a spiel in this room about the readiness promoting sandbags, sandbags, sandbags. And the thing is, I earnestly explored in 2024 about hands-on sandbag use in a shared carport. And then the board of the Owners Association opposed sandbags. Concern is the shifting of risk towards other folks in proximity. That's the rationale. So what's next? I found no written info on the city's website about any proactive infrastructure next steps. A public works list of 3 goals is posted, but those goals span just a few years out of a 10-year visioning plan. So how about a new goal to enhance infrastructure? It's time we think beyond sandbags and stop pretending one thing fits all concerned. Condo homeowners are not second-class constituents the last time I checked. Looking forward, it may take political will to explore adding a catchment basin along Surfside Drive as a strategic enhancement. This idea was described 12 months ago by someone technically respected, and I was only CC'd, So I know we have a broader spectrum of distinct areas in Port Hueneme, but if you assume the word sandbag appeases folks in high-density zones, think again. Put yourself in the wet shoes of someone young or old rushing outside past midnight as recently as last week with atmospheric waves of rain. Yeah, we moved our cars from the carport to slightly higher ground again, a desperate and sleep-depriving coping mechanism. So sandbags are not a silver bullet to rely on. We at Surfside 3 are constituents, so don't bury your intelligent heads in sand and pretend that sandbag is a go-to solution for all. I've supported candidates' forays at Surfside 3 to canvass in years past. So come and get to know our terrain and our stark exposure to backups of runoff from Surfside Drive, triggering sudden and destructive ponding. Okay, I made it. Less than 3 minutes. So 50th anniversary in February 2026.
And then we just have one last public comment written. I will read that to you now. It's from Jessica Camarillo. Dear members of the City of Port Hueneme's Council, my name is Jessica Camarillo, and I am a junior at Oxnard High School. I am honored to serve on this year's planning committee for the Arthritis Foundation's Walk to Cure Arthritis, which will take place on May 31st at the collection. I am writing to request your support in approving a proclamation to recognize May as Arthritis Awareness Month in the City of Port Hueneme. Arthritis affects millions of people, including children like myself. I was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis when I was just 4 years old and still receive infusions every 4 weeks. Despite these challenges, I have remained dedicated to my academics, maintaining an above 4.0 GPA and proudly playing on the Oxnard High School girls varsity volleyball team. I rarely share my condition with my peers because I don't want special treatment. I simply want to be seen for who I am. However, raising awareness is incredibly important to me, and I believe this proclamation would help shed light on the reality of arthritis and the need for continued research and support. I would also like to request if you would play the attached 2-minute video, Faces of Arthritis, during the council meeting. It is a powerful video that highlights the impact of arthritis for all ages. If this is possible, please let me know what steps I should take to make this happen. I also want to personally invite each of you to join us at the Walk to Cure Arthritis, May 31st, 2025. Your support would mean so much to our community working toward a cure. Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to your response and hope to see you in May. Sincerely, Jessica Camarillo.
Yes,
And,
Manager.
Mayor and Council, so we did adopt a schedule of presentation items for this year. At the meeting in May, there is room for one more item, so although we can't do it now as part of public comment, if there's an interest from the council in adding that item, it can be added under future agenda items.
And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone who provided public comments tonight. We'll move to our agenda approval. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Mayor, I have a request on the agenda.
Okay,
We're talking about the entire council agenda
yeah.
Is your mic?
or just the consent?
No, this is to approve the agenda, and then we're going to go back and talk about the consent. Do you have a change on the consent?
Well, I wanted to ask if we could move one of the items up.
Okay,
Yeah, I was hoping that we could move, we have the dredging project update at the very end, and I believe there was going to be staff here from the county, I don't see them though, who are going to speak on that item, and I just didn't want to hold them up.
okay.
Because there's a
well-
lot on the agenda.
Well, they're not here, and so we
Okay.
don't know if they're going to be here in
Yeah.
time for us to get there.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and move it with the approval, and then
Right.
we'll.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Can I get I think I got a motion. Councilmember Perez, is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move to conflict of interest. So does any member of the council have any conflict of interest to disclose regarding any of the agenda items? No, thank you. And we'll move on to our presentations. We're going to have Chief Federico come up.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, Giorgio did stop by tonight to say hi before I give the presentation.
Yay.
Where's the squirrel?
Hey, Giorgio.
Hi, buddy. He loves that. He's a squirrel catcher. No, he loves it. But he did.
Always great to see him.
I know, buddy. I know. You know, the unique thing about having the non-apprehension dogs is everything. This guy has turned into truly a therapy dog in the station, in the community. He wants to play, and if you get him on the carpet, he just wants his belly rubbed. But he's super sweet. Thanks, buddy.
Aw.
Oh, he wants to say hello.
He's on everything, but not like he was the first time.
Yes, and recently the officers were on a call with a military vet that was going through a mental health crisis. And, you know, all our officers are CIT trained, and they were doing a really good job with communication, but there was still a hard breakthrough. Officer Magana, Joel there, got Giorgio out of the car instant. The guy hugged him and just got into conversation, said how he reminded him of his dog, and the cooperativeness came full force. So we're now going to look at the potential of putting him through some therapy dog training since he's a non-apprehension dog. Okay. Lot of information to go over, so I'm going to get this going. Towards the end, we get to the homeless section. I'm going to have Officer Zach Frum come up and discuss the homeless part. If it works, maybe hold the questions to the end, and I will try to get through this as fast as I can. Where's my clicker? I'm always honored to present to you the hard work of your staff at the PD. All this is done in accomplishment with all the teamwork we do with the city staffs, everything that you support us for in the council, and that the city manager does out of his office. Okay, a reminder on our mission, vision, and values, which we presented last year, leading our community's efforts in safety, enrichment, and engagement. Serving our community with respect, compassion, and courage, and our values, respect, integrity, compassion, courage, and the uniqueness for us here in Hueneme is employee enrichment and wellness. Our staffing levels. If you recall, last year you got bragging rights as a city to have the first agency in the county that was fully staffed with sworn officers. It's very unique. Not only across the country, but very much so in Southern California. Everybody's trying their best to recruit the best and brightest into their organization. We did get up to 24 sworn staff, which included myself, the chief, the commander, admin sergeant, 3 sergeants. We were able to take one of the operations sergeants, make him a traffic sergeant, 2 senior officers, the 12 police officers making up 1 community resource officer, the motor officer, and the K-9, and 1 was a trainee. Understand this, when we came to you for support last year for tools and resources such as, you know, motorcycle and K-9, we weren't adding full-time employees. We were adding tools and resources for the motivated team that's already in place to take those and use them in patrol. We have 4 reserve officers. We were up to 2 community service officers, and then we brought parking enforcement back over to the police department, which was here under the PD well over 20 years ago. Investigations division. There's 1 sergeant here running the shop. There's a senior detective and then a police officer detective. And we have 1 sergeant on the organized retail theft task force leading a team of deputies and police officers. Our staffing levels with the administration. Our support services, we have our 1 manager, 1 dispatch supervisor, and 5 dispatchers. We had a transition last year in dispatch, as you recall. We lost dispatcher Ivan Vasquez at a very young age to cancer, and then we brought aboard Nikki. We've it's still losing Ivan at such a young age, and last year in May was rough for the department, but the good thing was we had brought peer support and some other things into the department, in time to help address that. Property and evidence, one supervisor and the support services technician part-time back there in property and evidence. And then in records, there are 2 senior records technicians, and we've held a spot in there vacant during all of last year. We have 11 explorers and growing. We just recruited some more, and 3 police chaplains. Call summary. So 911 calls were at 7,082. It's actually down from last year. Our administrative calls are 24,057, but that's also down. And for the total calls, they're down from about altogether from last year about 33,400 to 31,000. Our incident totals for the department is 18,890. Incident totals from last year was about 16,700, so we are up. That is also because of activity of your personnel doing more work in the field, so that brings your total number of incidents up. Police reports are up this year by about 200 more at 1,531. And the most common incidents are subject disturbing calls and our traffic stops, disabled vehicles, those self-initiated activities by your field personnel. Our homeless-related calls last year were at about 10%. They're down a little bit, between the 5 and 10% mark of our calls. The problem with an exact number on homeless calls, sometimes those subject disturbing calls are actually homeless-related, but they did not get queued as homeless-related calls. Quality of life incidents. Everything has gone up with the exception of a few less loud music party calls and suspicious vehicle calls. Maybe the suspicious vehicle calls are down drastically in half, probably because word got out that we have flock cameras in the city and we have good response times and maybe people are prowling and doing less. Arrests are down slightly to 637. They were about 685 last year. Among those, adult 595 and the 36 juvenile. Something that I wanted to bring here was juvenile diversion, which we got up and successfully running last year, working with our partners in county, with probation, with the sheriff's department, and city impact. And the city impact team has incredible resources that we can bring a juvenile who is subject to arrest but chooses to take a path to juvenile diversion to avoid the system. And if they agree to that and the family agrees, we had 4 in this case, they all went through successfully. One of those juveniles even called back to talk to the detaining officer, Officer Frum, to thank him for giving him the opportunity for juvenile diversion and changing his life. These 4 stayed on, or 3 of the 4 stayed on with the program to do more stuff that they're doing at City Impact, and one of them apparently is even trying to be a mentor to other kids. So this is good news, and I hope to see those numbers grow. Your traffic citations are up. I had to note from 2023 it was 784 to 1,306. That's what happens, folks, when you put motorcycle officers out there to slow speeding and other hazardous driving. Very proud of our average response times in this city. I've always bragged about it. Even when I worked in another city, I talked about how great the response times were in Port Hueneme. And having an average of 2.3 minutes in today's world for an average call is great. We get to calls fast, and sometimes the initial caller is still on giving details to the dispatcher while we're pulling up on scene. Okay, as I mentioned, parking enforcement came over to the PD mid-year, right at July 1st, we moved them over. And I was very happy to hear somebody come in and praise the work of your hardworking parking enforcement officers. Sometimes you just hear the negative and you don't hear the praise. The work they do is difficult, it's hard, but there's a reason for traffic flow and parking safety and things like that. So if you see the top two lines are the 6 months prior to coming over, and then the bottom two are the 6 months here at the PD. The drastic difference is that green line. The green line is they're following our respectful, compassionate approach and spirit of the law in how we handle enforcement in the city, and that is warning citations in green. And it's allowing people to change their parking behaviors before they have to cite them. The reason why you might have seen a little bit of decline in the top bar the first 6 months of the year was we suspended some parking enforcement as a city after the storm, if you recall. So the good news is in these past 6 months, the majority of the red citations have been down at beach parking. I don't understand why people would still come to our beautiful beach and not pay the lowest beach parking ticket prices I've ever seen. It's like $8 for the whole day. But they're still out there. And so parking does focus on that.
Can I just say something? Thank you so much for explaining this line. I think if someone would review this report outside of hearing you say, and I recall when after the storm the tickets weren't being given out. So if you didn't have that information, you just look at this and say, wow, they're giving more tickets, but they're giving warnings as well. And so that top line, I imagine if we didn't halt the tickets being given, that line would be probably the 449 and the 1252, the warning.
I even went on ride-alongs with both our park enforcement officers when they came over, and we talked about my philosophy, the community's philosophy, and how we want to approach these. And like I said, either one of them will tell you right away what's the highest number of tickets or what's the highest category of tickets. It's now beach parking. That's the focus. In a small community like ours, if somebody's blocking somebody's driveway or there is a need or somebody has explained they called to complain about certain parking violations, they'll let us know. They'll let us know. We are doing proactive patrols in the neighborhood, but I think a community that's able to call in when it's a nuisance is a happier community. And then when parking enforcement's down, focused on the beach where people should be paying, it's clearly marked, then that also makes for a happier community.
And just one more question, if I may. So when you give tickets, do you see where the car is registered at? And I get the reason I ask that, are the tickets coming from people who don't live in Port Hueneme?
No, some of them are residents.
Okay,
And then, no, some of them are out, and they're not running the plates. They're just issuing the ticket pretty quickly on an electronic device and then leaving it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you to the chart while I read these next two instead of having you on the paragraphs. So the Port Hueneme Police Department previously utilized the Uniform Crime Reporting System, which has been the data collection method for law enforcement agencies across the country for many decades. This year, law enforcement agencies have now transitioned to the National Incident-Based Reporting System. The change to NIBRS from the former UCR system can make crime statistics appear higher in the first year of transition. This is primarily because NIBRS captures a much more detailed picture of crime by reporting every offense within an incident versus reporting only the most serious crime in a single incident in the past. There are now multiple reported crimes for some incidents that may have only had one crime reported per incident in the past. There are two categories shown here, the property crime and the violent crime. Again, this is going off of what we could compare to last year's with the new numbers that they keep with the new system, so we did our best to try to match them. A significant increase in burglaries has nothing to do with the systems. That has everything to do with the flooding we had. After the storm that the community suffered in late December 2023, over the next few weeks, we had several burglaries reported in the area where homes were left vulnerable after the flooding. The properties were left vacant. And a lot of times we had to double check with folks and just make sure it wasn't something that was cleaned up in the removal of debris and property. If you recall how much assertiveness we did as a police department in our vulnerable neighborhoods that were vacant, we were making arrests We were doing surveillance on some people that we weren't sure if they were there to help or hinder. And we had a couple of foot chases. I was involved in one myself. And we got people in custody who were up to no good. Among that, 24 hours a day, it's hard to be in there, and there was a few. Some incidents that would have been previously categorized under simple assault are now moved up to aggravated assault, so it looks like our aggravated assault numbers are higher. This created a significant increase. That is due to the change in the system. So next year, when I'm able to present two similar systems under NIBRS, it'll be easier to compare. The other significant increase in violent crimes category is that from the homicide incident in 2023 to the 2 separate homicide incidents involved, with 3 reportable homicides in 2024. What you will see next year is a comparison between the new NIBRS chart with 2024 and 2025. And as you can see, it's breaking categories down to be more specific to understanding what's going on in each crime trend and what's affiliated to a crime. Where they weren't tracking specifically the weapon or if drug use or mental health was involved, that is something now that we're going to track nationally. Okay, every police department in California has DOJ reporting. Amongst what you're going to see is I'm going to explain them, and then on the next page you're going to see the outcome of our reporting. SB 54, all individuals transferred from our custody to immigration authorities per the government code. You will also see death in custody and arrest-related deaths. Law enforcement personnel survey of the number of personnel. AB 953, the civilian complaints against police officers, the number of criminal and non-criminal complaints and dispositions. AB 71, the use of force reporting. Must be reporting use of force incidents that result in serious bodily injury or death to a civilian and or a police officer. And then our RIPA reporting. Our Racial Identification and Profiling Act numbers after each stop an officer must complete. And we fill those out at the end of the day. So when I go to the chart, I'm always happy to report this. First of all your reports are available on Open Justice, DOJ.gov. As far as transfers to immigrations for the city of Port Hueneme, it's 0. Death in custody and arrest-related deaths, 0. Our law enforcement personnel survey, 22 male, 2 female, non-sworn, 3 male, and 9 female. It doesn't count certain positions in the Department of Non-Sworn, i.e. the part-time. So that's why I put the 12 next to it. That would be our full contingent. Civilian complaints against peace officers. Even Commander Albertson told me he doesn't remember the last time we had just seen one. Your folks, your team is out there being assertive on the streets. They're making contacts. They're making arrests. You saw the numbers before you. In almost every organization that has assertive police officers out there, you will see a number of complaints. There are some people who will complain just because they got caught or they disagree. We had one, folks. I'm very proud of this team and their professionalism and their acts as respectful, compassionate guardians. Use of force reporting, a 0 that met the criteria. Our RIPA stops, there were 962 that were submitted by the deadline of the October count. Amongst those stops, there was 1,047 individuals encountered. Okay, accomplishments for 2024. We promoted 1 new support services manager at the end of the year. We hired 2 police officers, and we welcome parking back. I mentioned that. We created the community resources officer position. So we took the cannabis HLO position and we've put schools and the other need for this trend in graffiti right now. I wanted to go back to a system where we were doing more tracking. So your community resources officer is Zach Frum, so he's built out some program for tracking graffiti. He handles some new programs we've started in the schools, as well as maintaining and monitoring the enforcement side of cannabis and our homeless liaison efforts. We brought back a regular beach patrol. You might have seen the Polaris. I've even been out there myself. We brought back a regular scheduled beach patrol, especially on holiday weekends. I've seen many of you out there myself when usually you're barbecuing or you're just hanging out at the beach. And for the first time in the department's history, we added a second motorcycle officer. Not only increase in traffic enforcement, but folks, I know when the report was given by Commander Albertson on the history of the motor program here, where we brought the motor and it reduced fatal crashes, we took the motor away years later and we went years with an increase in fatal crashes. And since the motor's been back, 2022, there was 2 fatals. We brought the motor. In 2023, there was 1 fatal crash, and last year there was 0. Now, you might have heard of 2 crashes involving deaths. There was 1 in front of Grocery Outlet. That was a medical emergency. That was not a fatal crash. That's unavoidable. Very sad and tragic incident. There was 1 on Hemlock with a young man. After our traffic team took that investigation, all causes of the crash, the speed, all attributing factors happened in the city of Oxnard. The vehicle's original point of impact was in the city of Oxnard. The sad thing is the vehicle went airborne and landed across the street in the city of Port Hueneme. So if you understand jurisdictional, this was not our crash. That is a city of Oxnard crash. So all the contributing factors are not in the city of Port Hueneme. We created a full-time traffic unit. There used to be a motor or traffic officer in the history of the department with collaterally a sergeant overseeing it, usually a day watch sergeant. We changed the game here to take the community's concerns for traffic seriously, and first time you have a full-time traffic unit, which also allowed us to bring parking over easily and put them in the traffic unit, which reassigned the CSOs to the traffic unit. And you have a full traffic unit. Again, other than bringing parking over, we did this without adding FTEs. We moved personnel around, empowered them and gave them the equipment and the opportunity to handle a traffic unit. With that, another first for the department is the commercial enforcement equipment, which I was thanking VCTC friends, they were leaving because that VCTC grant is what brought you your commercial enforcement. It was, all the commercial enforcement equipment was fully funded by a $31,000 grant from VCTC. That is there to bring some safety and some security measures of our traffic flow, not just on the boulevards, but that which is coming from our port. So there's a lot of pluses to having a commercial enforcement team. It also brought us our first drone. If you recall, part of that package was a drone. We've had success with using the drone outside of the traffic investigation field that it was originally brought for. We had some suspicious subjects on the roof of a shopping center. In the old days, we'd get the fire department out there, our friends in the fire department. I love them because they have ladders at beck and call. And we would put 2 ladders up and have to do a tactical climb on 2 sides of the building. Well, we have drones now. We don't have to do that. We brought the drone, we used it. I think Sergeant Bates used his dad voice and gave commands to the suspects from the drone and ordered them off the roof. So it's got some successful use. We would love to expand the drone program. We'll talk more about that later because we are very close to the ability to have a potential of a drone first responder program, but we'll present that later. We got a Bosch crash data recorder and new LiDAR systems, laser, the old radar speed gun, it's now LiDARs, which is a more accurate speed detector. And the Bosch crash data, does everybody have one of those? Yeah, they're very unique, but it's the best vehicle reader for reading the computer in a car for crash data. And we have one of the unique ones that can read multiple cars. very accurate. And honestly, on a risk management side for the city, it's outstanding to have that. Because in a lot of fatal crashes, there's a lot of engineering questions and stuff about the city, but when we have all the facts that we can gain for ourselves, it's a benefit to the city. We upgraded virtual reality training for our officers. We upgraded to a higher quality TASER 10, which is another useful tool to reduce injuries to both us and arrestees. And we upgraded our body-worn camera system. We've had improvements within the station remodel after the flooding of 2023. We've worked within budget with that to get everything up and running. I told you I was even able to squeeze in, I think when I talked about the wellness presentation, squeeze in a small gym at the back of the station. So, and we bought some equipment with that with grant money from the state. And you saw Giorgio as our newest K-9 officer in 5 years. And there's a lot of community support for a second K-9. Giorgio focuses on explosives and firearms. The next one would focus on narcotics. You can't cross-train them in that, but in both cases, they're able to sniff out people. So not just for suspects, but when the lost child disappears or one of our residents, our young residents with autism, goes lost from the home at night, we can bring a K-9 out there and have them sniff the bedding and start looking right away and find them a lot faster than we can with flashlights. We've, hired 3 new police explorers. We hosted a regional police explorer academy. We hosted Police Explorer holiday toy giveaway, Thanksgiving turkey giveaway, Police Explorer car show, Havana Nights fundraiser. The Explorers competed in 2 state and 1 national competition. The Sunny Horses for Kids folks came out and we did an event with them with our officers at the Boys and Girls Club. Hueneme Beach, we participated in the Hueneme Beach Festival, fun run events, Port of Hueneme Beach Festival. There's been a lot of backpack medicine events. I can let Zach talk about that when he gets to homeless. We did a really cool thing this year. We did the Autism Society of Ventura County's Ought to Run, but we did it as a city team. We had other members of the department, members of council. I wanted to walk. Councilmember Perez was like, no, you will keep running. If I'm running, you're running. I wanted to just walk the second half of that thing. It was good, but we had different members from different departments in the city, plus members of our community there, all running in Camarillo for that. So that was a good day, and we're going to do it again this year. Special Olympics torch run participation, which again had members of the city council, a lot of people involved in that. We hosted another National Night Out event, and our social media continues each year to increase over 10%. Talked about juvenile diversion justice assistant grant with our county partners and city impact team. I won't get into that again, as I already explained. 4 juveniles, 3 of them stayed beyond their requirement. The grants, spending on grants. So the justice assistance grant, we've used $9,140 of that in this year's budget. The organized retail theft grant brought us $254,000. Officer wellness and mental health grant, we spent all $20,000 of that this year. And the Prop 64 Cohort 2 and Cohort 3 grants, although there's hundreds of thousands going to the Boys and Girls Club through the city grant, $64,000 came back to our budget to fund a position. Again, I mentioned VCTC's $31,000, and our total grants that we attained this year, that we allocated this year, was $379,151. Lots of community engagement. And then it brings us to homeless with your Community Resources Officer, Zach Frum. Some good numbers to report.
Good evening. Homelessness, I'd like to start with the graph on the right. It is just a heat map, if you will, just the hotspots for calls for service. So if you see on the north end, where the red is, it's generally around the Mandalay Village Marketplace as well as Olvera. The beach has gone down. We'll go over that in a second. So the point in time count in 2024 was 44 individuals that were experiencing homelessness. So a point in time count for 2025 was 21. So we decreased that significantly with not only myself, but our entire department, just working with anyone that they can to at least direct them to me, or I can direct them to the proper resources. Individuals housed in 2024 was 1, and the OS stands for out of state. 1 individual who was primarily around the pier area. Some of you may have seen him with his girlfriend under the pier in the little table area and stuff like that. He's from Georgia, experiencing homelessness. We've had countless calls for service on him, and just initially was service resistant, which is a difficult thing to just break through to people that understand that there are resources for him. But eventually we got to him, and he was just tired of living, under the pier, and tired of us coming out there talking to him, and just wanted his life back. So he's from Georgia. He had family there that was willing to take him in, and we reached out to our county resources and got him back to Georgia on a Greyhound bus. So it was a nice little success story, him and his girlfriend. So he actually sent one of our officers, Officer Canino, a selfie of him and his girlfriend on the bus going back. So it was a little heartwarming to see. You always hear you send people off and you hope that they make it, and it was encouraging that we received that simple picture. So since the CRO position, previously it was the HLO, the Homeless Liaison Officer, was created in 2021. We have housed 5 people, so it's awesome. But the biggest difficulty, again, I'll reiterate, is just people being service resistant. We contact individuals every single day. We offer resources, and it's just whether they're willing to receive the help. And so speaking on backpack medicine as well, we met with them today, did a whole roundabout in the city, just trying to contact anyone that we can. And James Boyd, the director of all that, he's an awesome man, and he's got his work cut out for him, but he spends time with our city, which is awesome, and he cares, and he's always available, no matter if he's in our city or in another city doing a cleanup or doing whatever he's doing elsewhere in the county. Yeah, frequency is increasing, so that's encouraging, just because we're trying to break through the service-resistant people, letting them know that we don't, at the end of the day, we don't have to take them to county jail, or there's actual legitimate help. There's shelters. There's these things for you, especially for a veteran too as well. There's all these resources, and so we're increasing the frequency of backpack medicine. So we're going to be changing the date, hopefully, of the week, just because of certain days off and things like that. But it's increasing, which is extremely encouraging. So. Yes, that's a good transition. So I've been working extremely closely with the Ventura County District Attorney's Office, and because of the Grants Pass Supreme Court decision, it now has allowed us a little more enforcement options. And so some of the previous laws that we were not allowed to enforce at all just kind of went to the wayside. We're now allowed to enforce those laws, and mainly it has to do with private property versus public property. And so a lot of our issues, if you will, would generally tend to be on private property, the things you see at Mandalay Village, the things you see at Olvera, and various other places. They now allow us certain codes that we're allowed to use to effect an arrest, if that's the last resort, of course. So encouraging things coming, and had a really good conversation, followed up on one of my cases at the end of last week, and they're actually filing the charges that we were previously not allowed to based off the Grants Pass decision. So. And Prop 36, thank you for everyone. Yes, yes. Yep. Cool.
Any questions at all?
Questions while I'm here?
I do have one specific
Of course.
question for you, Officer Fromm.
Yes.
How much of your time do you spend with the homeless? Is it your whole everything? I mean, all day, your job is to just be the liaison.
If I'm at work and if I'm not going to the homeless related call and another officer is, they will direct it to me, call me out there. Generally, I am the guy to go to for homeless if I am there. So I will get dispatched to all those calls. It may feel like it's all I do sometimes, but I have a lot of other responsibilities, like Chief went over with the schools and youth outreach and all that stuff. But I do spend a significant amount of time of every day handling homeless-related issues.
Well, thank you. I just want to thank you for that.
Of course.
We see it from afar, and so just it, to have to come in contact with and just continually, and not giving up.
Yeah.
Is very, very important, and I'd say it's God's work. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gama.
Thank you. The other day, Officer Fromm, I saw a U-Haul truck, and they were collecting beds and bedding and homeless stuff that was hidden where these spots were. Could you tell us a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, so we, Chief and I and a couple other members of the department had a really good meeting with the property manager of the Mandalay Village Shopping Center. I'm assuming that's maybe where he saw it. Okay. And we had a really good walkthrough with them, did a really just deep dive on the entire property. The CEO that handles the entire, from Seattle all the way down to San Diego, came out and did a walkthrough with us. And we spent a significant amount of time there, and they're completely invested in that property. They love the property, and they love that we're willing to work with them with whatever they need. And they're also willing to do whatever they can. And so that day, they just had I guess a cleanup crew come out that handled oversized and soiled bedding and bulk items. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. Bulk items. And so they're really doing a deep dive. And I know that they were pressure washing, power washing the side of the house, the old House of Gaines right there. And they're really invested in that property.
When I saw the truck, it was nearly full.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great example of communication with our community stakeholders working together and all that. So that was really nice to see.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
So recently there was a treehouse by KFC. Someone was there for, it looks like a little while.
Mm-hmm.
What was the end result? Is mental health, drugs? What?
Mainly mental health. So that treehouse was discovered. I'm sure many people have saw it on social media. It kind of made its headlines around. A lot of my friends that work at the LA County Sheriff's Department even sent it to myself. And they're like, what's going on here? I'm like, all right, we're figuring it out. But the property manager, they were doing some tree trimming. They exposed this treehouse. We would have never have saw it if they didn't do any of the abatement with the branches. And so it was initially someone that was very service resistant, and I believe he still is service resistant. He still frequents that area in the Hueneme Bay Shopping Center. But yes, we have offered him countless help, and we eventually obviously took down the treehouse.
So last question, how, the waterways that are under there do we frequently go through there?
Yeah, myself and Sergeant Perez over there, we love to get down and dirty. We'll go down. We have a key for the county entrance along just north of KFC. There's a little gate access down there, and we have our own little Batman-style rope, and we'll rappel down into the canals, and we walk through all the way under the intersection. And there's a giant L that you just can't see. It just goes down, connects to Channel Islands, and we'll walk it ourselves. And we walk it before every major storm, just to see if anyone's down there. We've had tents, and we've encountered several people, dogs. It's pretty wild sometimes. So,
Thank you.
of course.
Yeah, Councilmember.
Officer Fromm, thank you for your work on with our homeless situation in Port Hueneme. I remember hearing, I'm not sure if it was at a port meeting or this meeting, residents from Harbor Lights complaining about people screaming and yelling. They abut right against
Right.
Mandalay Village Shopping Center. Have you had any discussions with the HOA there about the walkthrough you did and the cleanup efforts that the shopping center took on? I think they'd really like to know that you've made some progress there.
Yes, we do meet with their HOAs, especially mainly our beat coordinator for that area as well. And so I have experienced that as well, even just driving through, even hearing that. it's kind of hard to sometimes know where it's coming from because things echo off certain structures. But I will follow up with our bee coordinator to make sure that's addressed.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, of course.
I know when they signed up to
Thank
be
you.
peace officers, they didn't know they'd be repelling into canals, did you, Ricky? But they go above and beyond. That's the services you get here from this police department. And again, when we deal with the canals too, we have to do it in conjunction with communicating with Oxnard. If they're gonna do some type of activity or cleanup in the city of Oxnard, we need to be ready because the next place the individuals may wanna go is there. So we do cleanups in those canals compassionately before the storms. Plus we check for debris and communicate with our county partners in Public Works. If we go down there and find debris that needs to get moved out before a storm. And we regularly go down there just to look for people. All right. With that, questions on the rest of the?
I have
annual
one
report?
question.
Yes.
In the slide that had the chart and you, there seemed to be a large jump from last year's 2023's report of assaults to aggravated assaults was like 83 or 88. I know that you all are reporting based on possibly different definitions.
Yes.
Can you just
So,
tell us a little bit what
so we used to have to have things in conjunction with the reporting. So if it was, it appeared to be a serious charge, but there weren't significant injuries, those didn't get counted. Now the injuries are out of play, which might have been a simple assault before. The injuries doesn't matter, the action does, or a weapon does, even though the person didn't get injured. So that got put into the higher number.
Okay.
So next year's will look, hopefully, where there'll be a more defined number similar to that, either up or down.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem?
So there was a heat map of the unhoused. Do we have a heat map of this chart?
We do. We have our Socrata based on our website that you can go to. And where's Frank? Can we do?
Sorry.
The calls for service versus the DISPO. And that's where our technology gets.
So with Socrata, it's based off of the heat map. It's based off our calls for service derived from our dispatch center. So there's functions where you could go funnel out what you're looking specifically. It could be whether it's like a fight call, a transient disturbing, a subject disturbing call. It will show you, and then you could do comparisons from like the year prior, year of, or like a 3-month look. But it's derived off of our calls for service, not necessarily our stats that's reported from our reports.
I was just curious because if we have aggravated assault, robbery, things that are actual events, and you could actually see the heat map of those. That would be, you could actually see where all the issues are in a quick
Correct. And the
visual.
We do have some calls for service that will show like an assault or like there's certain criteria that we have, and if you go on the link with Socrata, it will show you, and you can select them, and it will show you those specific types of calls. So it doesn't capture all of our calls, but there are certain preset calls that we have in our dispatch center that will like a shots fired call, vehicle theft. We have a subject disturbing call on there, and you can sort it from there. And if any of you guys have any questions, I'd be more than welcome to show you guys how to navigate the program so you guys could run your own heat maps because it's all open to the public.
Thank you.
And as we build out our technology there, especially now, we're going to build out the technology around the new NIBRS campaign versus the UCR. So when we build the technology out with the city's is built up some technology over the years, but technology takes time. Maybe we can hone it in specific to the next standard of reporting.
Great. Any other questions? Councilmember Hernandez?
Chief, thank you for your report. I wanted to know, you mentioned something about building improvements. I wanted to know the status on dispatch. How's that just coming along?
So we are waiting on some really good technology for them. We're funded for this, it's in the budget. So we've done the physical build out. They have these great ergonomic consoles. The space is there. But the technology build out we did, we are still standing by for some of the technology. It's going to be good technology with some advancements to help on our dispatching of calls in 911. It's on its way.
Thank you.
Great. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay. We'll now consider items on the consent calendar, which will be enacted in one motion unless a council member has a request to remove an item for discussion. Any items pulled? If not, may I get a motion and a second?
Move to approve?
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please.
Do we have any discussion?
Sorry.
You're taking discussion on consent?
Consent calendar?
Do we need to pull
I just
one?
I just wanted to congratulate Joan Tharp on the work on the dunes, that's all. Thank
Okay,
you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Sorry. All right. We're going to now move into the public hearings. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits for the adopt a resolution granting special use permit number 1 through 25 for the City of Port Huenemi's 2025 movie in the park?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will staff present the report?
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, members of the community joining us tonight. So this will be a joint presentation. I'm Jose Coyote, the Associate Planner here, and Taylor Penny is joining us, Recreation Coordinator with the Port Hueneme Recreation and Community Services Division. Before you tonight is going to be Special Use Permit 125 named 2025 Movies in the Park. The applicant's request is to hold a public hearing known as the 2025 Movies in the Park, featuring a city-sponsored Movies in the Park screening series with approximately 500 to 1,200 participants at Hueneme Beach Park. The movie series event is to occur on June 13th, July 5th, and August 22nd, 2025, from roughly around 8:15 to 10 p.m. The event will include portable screens, one portable screen, a speaker system, an ADA accessible mat, and a refreshment station offering popcorn and soft drinks. And so the general information here is this item came to City Council because an SUP at Hueneme Beach Park requires council approval. This event is considered to be exempt under CEQA sections 15301, 15304E, 15308, and 15323 as the project uses existing facilities and will be a minor and temporary use of the land and will be restored once the event is over. Appropriate conditions of approval will ensure that the protection of the environment is kept. I'll now turn it over to Taylor to go over the event details.
Good evening, everyone. So as you can see, this proposed site map, this will be our fourth summer doing these movies at the beach. It's very highly anticipated and enjoyed by people from not just our county, but other counties that come and watch a movie under the stars at the beach. So this map is not to scale, obviously, but we have the movie screen that is just to the right of the pier with viewers facing towards the ocean. The first landing with the concrete tables is where we have the popcorn station at, and we offer free parking throughout the beach. We have, depending on the weather and the movie, we've had from 500 to 1,200 viewers come to the movie. So it's definitely a summer activity that people look forward to here in Port Hueneme. And the next slide is just some photos to kind of grasp. There are rec attendants serving some popcorn. The line goes pretty far out, but everyone gets a couple bags of popcorn. And then the other images are just some to capture the audience and size of how many people typically come to these events at the beach. Whether it was a foggy, kind of misty day, there was still probably like 500 to 700 people at that one or a clear evening. That the bottom picture was when we showed Moana, and it was about 1,200 people there. No parking was nearby. It was a packed house.
Moving over to the fiscal impact, once again, this is a city-sponsored event, and beach parking is being requested to be waived, so revenues usually collected for beach parking lots A, B, C, and along Ocean View Drive will not occur. Strategic plan consistency, this touches on two optimal levels of service for residents and businesses to support and establish programs and events that create a strong sense of community pride and connection to our history and our heritage, and also safe and secure and beautiful community, upgrade our beaches, parks, city-owned facilities, and structures to provide a better experience for our residents, employees, community, commuters, and visitors. The recommendation before you is to adopt a resolution that conditionally approves special use permit number 1-25 and find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA. This concludes this presentation.
Does council have any questions? We'll take comments later. Question?
Question.
Go ahead.
So I've been to two of these and they're awesome, hands down. Just out of curiosity, did we get any complaints?
Not that I'm aware of, none that came specifically to me. Maybe the line for the popcorn was too long. And we mitigated that by bringing in more popcorn machines. And so everyone typically gets 2 to 3 bags of popcorn. We are able to bring out the temporary accessible mat that allows people in maybe wheelchairs, strollers, wagons, where they're pulling out their dinners and blankets and stuff out farther into the sand without chugging through the sand. So that that mat does offer more accessibility and convenience for people to get out closer. So we've, over the few years I've been here leading this event, we've heard and made some accommodations to make it a better experience.
So like no noise complaints at all?
No, not in regards to this event.
And then
It's farther out enough in the sand.
But are the speakers like pointing away from like Surfside or, you know, towards, because it doesn't show how the noise is.
So if you go to the next slide with the pictures and you see, so if you see the screen, and if you can see kind of the 2 black dots on this left and right side of the screen, that's the speakers, and they're just like normal like DJ side speakers, and it projects enough to where you can hear it back by where the popcorn stand is. But if you're in the parking lot, you can't really hear. You can tell something's going on down there, but the sound doesn't like travel that far. So it's far enough into the sand to where I don't believe the housing community is affected. We, that I'm aware of, haven't had any complaints in the 4 years we've been having it out there from them on this. So I guess the answer is no noise complaints on this event.
And if I may, Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, the Community Development Department and Code Compliance, we haven't received anything for this specific event type.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mayor. Did you mention what movies are going to be playing?
I have those lists pending, which first trying to get approved, and then I will, the recreation team will announce the whole series, because there's more nights beyond this just at the other parks that don't require the SUP. So the full list will be shared probably in April, May time.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So we'll now open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open for public input, and the time is 7:53. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. Public input has concluded. I will now close the hearing. It is now 7:53. So we have before us a recommendation to adopt the resolution conditionally approving special use permit number 1-25 for the 2025 movie in the park and find the project special use permit 1.2-25 to be categorically exempt from CEQA and take such additional related action that may be desirable. May I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilmember Gama.
Mike, this doesn't include Miranda Park, or does it?
No, these 3 nights are specifically at the beach. There will be a showing at Miranda Park and potentially the newly bubbling Springs Park.
Nice, yeah, because I just wanted to make the comment that when you did it at Miranda Park, it's the noise, there really isn't any noise. You actually, my house is very close. I can see the screen. In order to hear, you have to walk in closer and closer you get, you can hear it better. So the noise is not an issue. So I just wanted to make that comment. And I really enjoyed having it in Miranda Park. It really brightens up the neighborhood, so thank you.
Great. Any other discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, can we take a vote, please?
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilmember Perez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Yes.
and Mayor McQueen Lejeune.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 12, adopt a resolution granting special use permit number 2-25 to allow the city of Port Hueneme to host the Hueneme Beach Festival with ancillary live entertainment stages, a youth wrestling tournament, soccer event, food and vendor booth, and art and crafts area, a carnival, alcohol booths, and find the event exempt from CEQA. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of report and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, moving on to the next item, this will once again be jointly presented with myself, Jose Coyol, Associate Planner, and Frank Montelongo, who is part of the police department, but also coordinates with the Hueneme Police Explorers. And he is active, as I am, on the committee for this Hueneme Beach Festival. So once again, the item is Hueneme Beach Festival, Special Use Permit 2-25. The request is to, by the direction of the City Council, to continue to host a public event known as the Hueneme Beach Festival. This event will once again feature live entertainment, a youth wrestling tournament, food and vendor booths, an art and crafts area, carnival, and alcohol booths. The festival is to take place on Saturday, July 12th and Sunday, July 13th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. with approximately 15,000 patrons per day. General information, once again, this is brought to the council because a special use permit being hosted at Hueneme Beach Park requires council approval along with the closure of Ocean View Drive. Once again, this is considered to be exempt under CEQA based on the fact that this is a temporary minor use of the land, and there's conditions of approval that will ensure the protection of the surrounding environment. I'll turn it over to Frank now.
Good evening. So the festival layout, once again, we'll be using Ocean View Drive. That will be the main entryway to the festival and walkway with our first aid tent, information booth, our food and general retail stalls. Parking lot B will be used as our host live stage area, as in the years past with our main stage. We'll have all the outside perimeter of lot B with our food services with the tables in the middle and our beer booth. East Ocean View Drive and the parking lot C will feature our carnival area with additional food vendors down in that area with the beer booth and our arts and crafts along the aisle of Ocean View Drive. For Hueneme Beach, we'll once again be hosting our youth wrestling tournament and the, and Jose will touch on this later, Copacabana soccer tournament as well during the festival. And then on Surfside Drive, it will be it's going to remain unchanged. We're going to have the right of way of traffic, so Surfside Drive will not be impacted with the road closures.
Frank, if I could just note there, and actually it works well for this slide too, just to reiterate that this is the new layout that we did for the first time last year with the goal of reducing the impact on the neighborhood and the residents nearby, and reducing the amount of street closures and all of those things. And I know we'll get into more detail, but in light of the questions on the last item about complaints, I just want to highlight that with this new footprint last year, it was the first time that the Beach Fest received 0 complaints as well with this proposed site plan. So we are proposing operating it with that same site footprint to really make sure that it ties in with the residents in the neighborhoods in the community. So I'll hand it back to Frank.
Yeah, so like James mentioned, this is the layout. You'll see down at the bottom at the beach is where we plan on hosting the wrestling tournament once again as last year. We're anticipating having a higher turnout this year. Last year when we did it, it was at the beginning of the school year, September, so a lot of the wrestlers were either playing their fall sports, football and other sports, so they weren't able to participate. So being in the summers during the end of their freestyle wrestling season, so there'll be more availability for more wrestlers. The Copacabana will be on the opposite side of the pier for their tournament on Saturday. They'll be having their event, and then there'll be an additional slide with their layout. You'll see in the green in the back lot, see again, is where our carnival area will be at, and extends out to the roadway into Ocean View Drive, aligned with all of our informational booths, our arts and crafts, and the purple tents are usually reserved for our sponsors. All of our sponsors for the festival is where they have their booths, and then the blue on top. Last year we had our head security with Viper Security. We had the Real Guppies, and then it was like our command post for our explorers with all the t-shirt sales and information for the goers. And then you'll see the main stage with the tables, and then the outline with the tables and the food vendors. So for entertainment, currently right now we're working on finalizing our lineup for the event. We're waiting on availability. We're checking with all the different types of musicians, and the board's discussing on who we're going to be going with this year. Once we have that available, it'll be updated and posted on the Hueneme Beach Festival website. For live music, we'll again be provided on the main stage. We won't be having a stage in the back this year. We're going to utilize the space again for more. We're going to put seating tables back there for parents or for festival goers to be able to sit down in the back, because that's one thing we realized we didn't have last year, and we're going to leave space for them to add additional rides in the back instead of the secondary stage. So all the music will be in Lot B, and then we're exploring the ideas again of once again having a banda, classical rock, pop, R&B, and Spanish rock, so to have a variety on both days for the community. And then we're waiting on confirmation, but again, once again, we want to include the high school marching bands for the Saturday of the opening of the beach festival. Last year we had Hueneme High School, Channel Islands, and Oxnard High. They did their all bands perform, and they kind of had like a drum off little performance they did at the end. So we're hoping to get all of them to come back. We're just verifying since it is in the summer. We just got to make sure the students are available. And then this is the information for the wrestling tournament. So again, it'll be on July 12th. It'll be hosted by Beats the Street LA, the Oxnard chapter. They are a nonprofit organization that offers free wrestling for the youth in the area in Ventura County. So they charge no fee for their training. So they use it as a fundraiser here at the beach. So they $30 per athlete, which is a typical price for a wrestling tournament, whether it's here in our county or up north and south. We're anticipating 80 to 100 athletes, ages as small as 5 years to high school or adults can participate. All athletes must possess a active USA Wrestling card in order to be able to compete, because it includes their insurance. And if they don't have one, they'll be able to purchase a $10 one-day membership, so that way they're covered for the event. And again, this is just the way the outline of the ring is, not your traditional wrestling match, just a pool noodle ring mat. And they're not allowed to wrestle on the ground. It's really more of a takedown. They gotta take them down from a standing position, and when they get them down, 3 takedowns is essentially a win for the. It's accelerated for the event.
All right, and as mentioned by Frank earlier, there will be another event at the beach at the same time. This will be the Beach Soccer Tournament on Saturday, July 12th, organized by Beach Soccer Promotions, LLC, with free admission. So event guests can actually travel on outward. I'll have the site plan available on the next slide to show how the close proximity it is to the Hueneme Beach Festival. This type of beach soccer tournament was actually previously approved by City Council back in 2023 under Special Use Permit 2-23. And it was for a 5-year summer soccer series at Hueneme Beach Park. To basically summarize what was approved, it is a tournament hosting 10 temporary soccer fields on the beachy sand southwest of the pier with about 150 youth players. Total expected capacity between spectators, staff, and vendors is about 400 persons at this event. And then the audience staff level is approximately 150 to 200 per spectator. And then 10 adults for the hospitality and security aspect of running the administrative program, along with referees, first aid personnel, and whatnot on the field. But it is anticipated with a maximum of 400 persons, depending on how many players sign up. Here, once again, it'll be on the north west side of the pier, so it'll be completely on the other side, closer to Ventura Road and Surfside Drive. As you can see, there are the 10 fields that are placed out there. And there is a small, on the red there, you'll see it's a small administrative trailer that pulls up, and that basically helps them organize the event, set up the cones and whatnot. There's the Copacabana branding that the company uses to go ahead and advertise for this event. And once again, this was previously approved, and this was the date that they chose to go ahead and host this. We anticipate that the parking demand available both on Surfside Drive and Ventura Road, along with all the open lots, will be sufficient for both events happening at the same time. We'll turn it back over to Frank to go over the security and parking plan.
And just to touch really quick on Copacabana, I have been in contact with their coordinator, so they're on board having their event in conjunction with ours because they're able to offer additional activities for the parents as they're waiting for in between their games, so they kind of the festival, and they're going to be advertising our beach festival for us as well to all of their participants to know that it's a free event for the community and they can go with their families after or in between games during the festival. So with security, the festival is completely fenced off. We'll have obviously our main entrance way. We have an emergency exit near the Alaska Memorial, and then we have two secondary emergency exits down in Lot C that are marked and posted, manned by our security company. All guests will be screened by security before entering the festival. The police department will have staff to monitor the gate and screening areas as needed. Parking will be general parking for all event guests, free of charge for the entire public. We're going to be using Lot A along Surfside Drive, Ventura Road, Market Street. And then last year we did have the port lot. They had allocated parking for us as well. And we included transportation from that lot to and from the main entrance of the festival. And then we'll have accessible parking in Lot A for a handicap, and Surfside Drive, once again, will remain open for all circulation and for buses as well. Once again, this year we're going to be having our youth poster contest. We're hoping to have a bigger turnout and participation this year. As you can see, these are all the posters that were submitted last year. The theme this year is Hello Summer. Prizes, again, is being sponsored by Lujan Transportation. Will be $350 for each winner, which will come back to a council meeting at a later date to present the winners like last year. We'll have 2 elementary for an upper and lower grade, 1 junior high, and 1 high school winner this year for the poster contest. So fiscal impact. So the festival cost last year for the city was $35,000 in sending in seed funding for the event, plus an additional $25,000 donation to the Police Explorers for the event-related services and the coordination for the event. The proposed changes for this year's festival and retroactively for 2024 is to have the Police Explorers coordinate and manage the alcohol sales with the volunteers over 21 years of age. The Police Explorers to collect revenue from alcohol sales instead of receiving the $25,000 from the city. And the reason for the change, we determined that the city should not be involved in alcohol sales and receiving the revenues from alcohol sales. So allowing the Police Explorers to manage the alcohol sales under proper coordination helps offset the city's previous expenditure. When we pull the permit for the alcohol sales, it's under the Explorers nonprofit. So our alcohol safe handling certifications, the insurance, and the purchasing of the alcohol from the vendor, it has to be done under a nonprofit. So like last year, it was done under under the Police Explorers. So that's the reason why for the change for this year. And then fiscal impact continued, city-sponsored event. The parking revenue typically generated from the beach parking tournament and general visiting parking for all the lots will not be collected. So that's one change from the soccer tournament from typically when the Copacabana has it, since it is in conjunction with the beach festival, there won't be any revenues from the soccer tournament because it's free parking that weekend for the entire public. The police, maintenance, and other service costs will be covered by the pre-budgeted staff time with no additional expenses to the city. We're hopeful that the festival is expected to achieve the similar financial results as last year, with the cost offsetting the business sponsorships, donations, vendor fees, and beverage sales. The structure will mirror what we did last year, and hosting all the costs covered by the festival generated revenues.
Moving on, strategic plan consistency. This touches on 3 major pillars: optimum levels of service for residents and businesses, to support and establish programs and events that create a strong sense of community pride and connection to our history and our heritage, innovation and opportunity, retain and maximize opportunities for local businesses as the backbone of our community, And finally, safe and secure and beautiful community, upgrade our beaches, parks, city-owned facilities and structures to provide a better experience for our residents, employees, commuters, and visitors. The recommendation before City Council now is to adopt resolution conditionally approving special use permit 2-25 and to find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA. That concludes this presentation. We're available for further questions.
Council have any questions? Councilmember Alma?
Yes, with regards to the band entertainment stage and all that, is there a headliner for each day, or would the headliner be in the middle of the day, or is it programmed to be at the end of the day, or have you even thought of it?
We're
that way?
working on it. Typically, we have the headliner at the end of the day for both closing days. But I think last year, I think the music we chose last year, any one of the bands could have been a headliner to close the event. Obviously, everything's dependent on our budget restraints on the type of the bands that we could bring into the festival. So that's something that the committee's looking at to adjust and see how we're going to align the musicians throughout the day.
So is midday, what's the most, the best time slot for a band? Like a mainstream band that everyone likes?
If I was to reference from last year, it kind of honestly depended on who was playing, because what we noticed last year, for example, on Sunday, we had a crowd in the morning for Santana, and then we saw a crowd show up specifically for Twisted Gypsies, and then we saw a different crowd showing up once they knew the banda was going to come on, and like we saw the crowd that was there for Twisted Gypsies kind of went on, and then we saw a different crowd coming in for the banda. So I think it just depends on who's playing to try to see who's going to be coming at what times.
If I could just add there, because Frank and I talked about this, and one of the things we're trying to do is have something for everyone, which is a challenge, easier said than done. But we're looking this year to try to have a mix of different types of music, and also to kind of mix up the order where it's a little different from last year's order. It's not going to be the exact same order. So we're looking at sort of trying to make sure there's something for everyone, and maybe the style of music that headlines one event might not headline the next event, as an example.
Correct.
So we're working on that.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Montalongo and Mr. Coyote, for your presentation. I have a few questions. The first one has to do with the policy on service dogs. I noticed last year there were a lot of dogs at the festival on both days, and they didn't all seem like service dogs. I was wondering what the screening process is, because it says that we have a screening process and no pets allowed, so I was just curious.
So with the service dogs, if an individual says it's a service dog, we don't have a way of vetting whether it truly is or not, so we have to take it for word of mouth. So if someone comes in with a small little Chihuahua or a pit bull and says it's my service dog, we have to take their word for it. So luckily we had no incidences last year with the event, but it was something the security was monitoring and just actively knowing that we had dogs in the area.
I think I saw somebody with 3 dogs, 3 large dogs
Correct.
there. So, all service dogs. I know we're adopting the special use permit. This is why we're here tonight. But I wondered if staff will be coming back with a budget
No,
that
so
we will be approving, because we have $35,000 that the city is going to be providing as seed money. Are we approving that?
So the council has already approved that when we got council direction to move forward. And so the budget has been approved, the permit is being approved tonight, and there's no planned future item. There's not another item returning to council.
I don't recall seeing a budget.
Okay.
Do we not get to see the budget?
We can send it to you, but I wouldn't recommend holding up the Beach Fest and scheduling another item to review it.
Well, I would like the opportunity to discuss the budget, because I'm concerned about the city costs, that we're not covering our city costs. And I'd like to know how we're monitoring them and how we are covering for them. Because the report does say that, that the city does budget for them, but I don't know how. Maybe we can talk about it on our one-on-one.
Sure.
No, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for your presentation. I see that there's no soccer fees for the Copacabana. So how does that work? Like, how are clubs invited to this event?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. So the other one functions as a for-profit, if you will, type of facility. So they come in here asking for permission to use the beach, and in an agreement, they have to pay for the beach lots that they use, and that's basically how that works out for us. It's a benefit for the city because they provide basic tourism and that sort of thing. And another thing, they will charge an individual price. While they don't charge an admission price to spectate and be a viewer, they do charge for the children being a part of the tournament. And that is basically market rate based on Copacabana.
So we don't know what clubs are invited to this event?
So typically the Copacabana is open. So if you go to CalSouth Soccer, because it's a CalSouth sanctioned soccer tournament, they're listed on the website. So soccer clubs, whether it be here in Hueneme or in the county of Ventura outside, they'll go on there looking at the tournament dates and see what's around in the area. And I believe the registration fee for Copacabana is either between $350 or $450 per team. And that's a roster size of 12 players per team. If you have like the older groups, like a U10, U11 team, which is a 9v9 and typically has 15 players, you have to split it up into two teams because the max size roster is 12 players. And what the Copacabana mentioned is they give discounts to teams that need to split up into multiple teams. They lower the cost for them because they know they got to split up their teams from their normal size. So, and it's advertised for it, like on our end, when we go out advertising the festival, we'll also be advertising the Copacabana as well. And people within the soccer community know that these tournaments are out. So it just depends on what each individual team for a club is registering for their tournament schedule for the summer.
Okay, so the LLC is promoting this specifically within their, like they're collecting all the revenue from
Correct.
this.
Yeah, it's separate from the beach festival completely. They have their own website. You can go to Copacabana Beach Soccer, and their website's there. I think they have 3 scheduled tournaments here in Hueneme, or 2, or then one's coming up fairly soon. Then they have their mid-July one as well. I think that's the last one for the summer for Port Hueneme.
Is it boys and girls?
Yes, it's boys and girls. Typically, it's not co-ed unless co-ed would be if you have a female player on a boys team, but you'll have your female divisions and your male divisions will be your teams for the event.
All right, next question. What I went, because I did go to the Beach Fest last year, and some of the bands that were playing in Stone, like they bring a crowd.
Correct.
That Bruno Mars cover band was a hit. DJ Depeche Mode was good. So my plug is that was some good entertainment. That's all I have. Thank you.
I had one more question.
Did you have anything? Okay, we'll go back to Councilmember Gama and then back to you.
Yeah, so, Mr. City Manager, basically, we're going to follow the model that we followed last year, correct?
Yes.
And I think last year, for the first time in the Beach Festival since I've been on City Council, we turned a profit.
It broke even. I would
Broke
say,
even.
yeah.
It didn't include city costs.
I would
I
say.
think it did.
I think it broke even with city costs. And the budget's very simple, actually, and we explained it last year. It's the $35,000 contribution and staff time for a committee. So that's the budget.
Right. Okay. And my next question is, so will Copacabana Beach Soccer, because when they come for their 3 events in the summertime, they bring a lot of people. So is their footprint going to be the same as, say, last summer? Because they take up all of B, A, Surfside Drive. I mean, they bring a lot of people with them.
Correct. So we anticipate having that overfill parking in the Surfside to Market Street area and the port lot, as well as having the parking available there for their goers, because they'll be closer to their event on the beach side.
Right, and I imagine we strongly encourage them to go purchase their food in the beach festival, because I know a lot of them go out and about to bring food back for their players and stuff like that.
Correct. And Copacabana, and talking to them, I'm working on a flyer. So what they're going to do in their registration and their email blast is they're going to actually be disseminating our festival poster to them, to all the registered participants, and they're actually going to put our information on their website as well, that their event for this tournament is in conjunction with our free event to the beach festival.
So are they like super excited because well, let me ask you this way. Are they experiencing cost savings because of this joint effort?
I think the only difference with the event is the parking, because the whole beach park area is free parking because of the beach festival.
So all the soccer players will get.
So the families of the teams coming to participate in the soccer tournament, instead of having to pay their $8 all-day parking pass as a family to come watch their children play soccer, they now get to come enjoy it for free because parking is free that weekend.
Right.
So it's the cost of the family. They don't have to incur to come.
Do they pay other fees to be on Wainimi Beach?
The only other fee they pay is their registration for the tournament. So it'd be the parking fee and then the beach parking fee to park, and then their entry to the tournament.
Are we going to adjust their registration fee since they're getting free parking? Are we going to kind of make it up in another way? Or?
They don't pay the city any other fees other than parking. Other than they paid for their permit initially, which is already paid for. So we won't have any. We don't have a way to increase any fees for them to offset. I think one positive though is that the port last year graciously provided parking, and we didn't really have enough people to use it. And so we talked with the port about the advantage of this year, if they provide that parking, that it'll actually be widely used, and they'll be able to we'll really advertise the appreciation to the port. So the soccer tournament, although we lose the parking revenue from their regular event, it actually will allow us to better use our resources for the Beach Fest event. And then, yes, the hope is that we're offsetting that cost by having all of those families join the Beach Fest and shop and eat and support the Beach Fest.
Yeah, I've always interacted with COPA a lot, and during beach cleanup and stuff, and they do a magnificent job of cleaning up after themselves. However, the trash cans are usually overflowing, and it does necessitate staff time on the beach to remove all the trash.
So we could work on allocating additional trash cans in that area. Then, if that's the area that they need more trash cans for that area, since we will have city staff there managing all the trash for the festival as well.
Yeah, so that's a really good trade-off because you're gonna be out there anyways.
Okay, great. Councilmember Hernandez. and
I'm
then
going to
Council-
pass on my question. We've spent enough time on this item.
Okay, Councilmember Perez.
You said there's going to be about 15,000 people. Are you actually counting? I know in years past, they approximated how many people come in, but they weren't really keeping a tally. Are you actually counting?
This year we plan on getting an actual count this year, so we have true numbers for it.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? If not, do we have any public comments? Oh, sorry. I'm now going to open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. The public input at 8:22. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
Yes, we have one public comment from Dulce Setterfield.
Good evening again, and let's remember following public hearing, there's consider the evidence is one of the follow-up steps. So this is a hearing with a city-run event. After a years-long pause, the event's grown louder and more ambitious. It seems that those doing the planning and analysis and here to make motions and vote can't be trusted to recognize the proximity of hundreds of multifamily households. The go-to stance seems to be to deem these condo homes as a noise pollution dumping ground. Tonight, I heard about peace officers with respectful, compassionate approach. Why not some respectful, compassionate approach with the high-density zone? Didn't hear mention of that in the presentation. A mass murderer said that he wouldn't see people in the periphery of his target area. And likewise, all of you, when you're looking at these site maps, you see vague shapes around your footprint of an event and not thinking about people living and breathing there, real people, households. So we Surfsiders, I want you to know we're not earless. I could hide my ears, but we're not aliens. We can't transform them. And we deserve the same safeguarding that the medically vetted standards in government code have for sound levels. Those standards inform our general plan and our municipal standards. Standards exist for a reason, not to be used only with favored populations. Now, last year, Van Clausen Associates revealed the city exceeds the well-known standards, but the city cowers behind an exemption blurb in the Muni Code. And the exemption is not an end of story. I'm not here for legal lingo wordsmithing, but in the Muni Code, but remember, respectful and compassionate, you seem to want that in other parts of your affairs. Do the homeless deserve that approach more than the multifamily households at the periphery of your event? I ask leadership here and now, consider the inhumanity to the folks in the high density zone, and if our lives and health don't matter, that seems sad and ridiculous. I'm running short on time, and I'm not going to do the deets about the sad and ridiculous, but I do want you to know the noise study is ongoing, and last year's study was a preliminary.
If I can just respond. Ms. Settlefield, you know that I've replied to you about the noise ordinance comments, and I've also been in communication with you about the Beach Festival event. We noted to start the presentation that the Beach Festival is the new lower impact footprint that we implemented last year, that we continue to implement. So I just want to note that I have replied to you with information about the noise ordinance and how permits work within those noise ordinances, and also that we have communicated about your concerns with prior beach fests. And my understanding was that you had commented that last year's beach fest was much improved. So if that's not your opinion at this point, then you and I can follow up. But our staff is taking all of these issues seriously. We've put real effort into improving the situation. If the request is just to not hold the beach fest, I don't think that's fair to the community, but that's that may be the request of one person, but I would recommend approving the beach fest permit at this time.
Thank you.
And there are no more comments.
Great, thank you. So the public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing, the time being 8:26. And we'll have, we have before us the recommendation to adopt the resolution conditionally approving the special use permit, define the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA, and take such additional related action that may be desired. Is there a motion and a second?
Move to approve?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? If there are no discussion, Madam Clerk, can you take a vote?
Councilmember Gama?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez?
Yes.
And Mayor McQueen-Lejeune?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move to the business items. Item number 13, the 2024 Annual General Plan and Housing Progress Report. Will staff please present the report?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, staff and audience. Tony Stewart, Community and Economic Development Director. This is a short presentation. It's one that we're required to give to the City Council every year. And it's a report on the progress made towards meeting our general plan goals, particularly with regard to the housing element. And it also provides an annual report on the Housing Successor Agency. And then by April 1st of each year, we have to report the findings to the State's Department of Housing and Community Development, or HED, and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. It used to be known as OPR, but now it's got that much longer name to it. And this, by the way, will be the last of the reports under this 5-year reporting period, and next year will be possibly an entirely new type of report, but this one's pretty much the one that you hear every year. And as a reminder, we primarily are reporting on the housing element here, which was officially certified by HCD back in October of 2022. And a refresher for everyone is that the state, through the housing element process, mandates what they call the regional housing needs allocation. And for the city of Port Hueneme, it's 125 new units that would need to be built planned for by 2029. They don't actually have to be built, at least not with this cycle, but HCD keeps making things tougher, so we'll see what happens with the next cycle. But for this one at least, we are required to plan for 21 extremely or very low income units, 16 low income, 18 moderate income, and 65 above moderate income, which would be like market rate. And the income levels are described by the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, or HUD, and then they are broken down by state and by county. So we, of course, would apply with or are required to meet Ventura County's requirements. And we are actually well underway to meet our RHNA in a couple of the categories. We have 16 ADUs, which do count towards those numbers, that were permitted last year, and 7 additional were completed. We do actually have 13 more in plan check right now. And so during the current cycle, which we started reporting on back in 21, through today, we have 19 low-income units, a total of the 16 that were required. So it means we're actually 3 above or 3 over, so we don't actually need to plan for any more, but it's a good idea that we do, just given the market. And then we have 20 above moderate income units. Now we do still need to meet our extremely low, very low income requirements, as well as some of the above moderate and moderate income requirements. So our housing element that was approved by HCD has 21 programs within it. And I'm happy to report that with all of the rezoning work that we all did a couple months back, we have now met all of our programs. They're all either in progress or they've been completed at this point. So that's great news for us, and it's good to report back to HCD that we are not out of compliance with our housing element at this point, which is always something that they are looking at. So with regard to the report itself, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details. As you know, in your packet there's quite a bit of it. Appendix A describes our compliance with the various housing successor agency expenditures and production requirements. And because we've dissolved the successor agency back in May 17th of 2023, most of those numbers are just, they'll continue to wind down basically with the activities, but the numbers themselves don't differ year over year very much anymore. And so, similar to last year, $127,488 in the asset fund was spent on administrative costs, which is actually under the amount that we're allowed to spend. The balance is a little over $5.2 million, of which $4.55 million is cash, which is equity and assets, including the properties that the city owns. And the fund may not accumulate excess surplus, and the numbers that were in the report and audited shows that it has not exceeded that. So we're in good standing there. And so that basically is my the presentation. The big difference between last year and this year really is the report on the fact that all 21 of those programs have now been complied with. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Start with Mayor Pro Tem.
So my understanding is the housing requirements from California, RHNA, I think that's the acronym. If we can't get builders to build, then nothing happens, right?
Correct. So as I mentioned, we have to plan for them, which we've done with the general plan itself, the housing element that was approved, and then all of the rezonings that we just did. So we are in good standing with planning for them. So we set up the groundwork, but you are correct. We can't force a developer to come in and build something. That said, though, with the new tools that we put into place, so to speak, we've made ourselves more marketable to potential developers.
Now, has anyone contacted the city to maybe, you know, talk about possible developments, and at what site?
We've got we've got a couple folks that are interested in several of our sites. Habitat for Humanity in particular is interested in our Pleasant Valley sites, which was what we were hoping that they would be. We just actually got the appraisal back, so I'll be meeting with our city manager about that within the next couple of days, and then presenting that to Habitat and hopefully moving forward with that. And so that should get us some additional good numbers and good development of those city-owned sites there along Pleasant Valley.
So last question, since we've met the low-income requirements for ADUs, we're not rejecting any ADUs anymore, correct? I mean,
we're not allowed to reject ADUs.
Correct. Okay. Just want to make sure that
yes,
no one's coming in and we're just saying no.
If they come in and if they meet the building code requirements, they're processed.
Okay. Thank you.
When it comes to Habitat for Humanity, I wish I could ask a question when you're going through your PowerPoint, but you had a slide that says extremely low, moderate. Listen to that wind. Woo. There we go. So where does Habitat fall into moderate income?
No, they're actually generally low income. So, but they can also fall into the extremely or very low, but they generally try to be within the low income.
And so if we were successful in working with Darcy Taylor and Habitat, how many units would we be able to satisfy in that Pleasant Valley, San Pedro area?
Well, that's a good question. We're thinking, at least based on the appraisal, somewhere between 15 to 19, but it really depends upon how Habitat will lay out the.
And would we approach Habitat like going with the same genre? Would we go with the same design? Because that would relieve architectural costs and stuff like that, or would it just be a whole new project?
They've come to us with a few different proposals, but we're looking at something similar to what was produced over off of San Pedro, which was the townhome concept.
Yeah, and I just think those are probably one of the best Habitat developments I've seen.
Yeah, and
they
those
really look good.
Those will come back to council. We're working on it. Would bring them back. My recommendation would be not to go too far into that topic on this item because it's not agendized as that project. But when we bring it back to the council, we'll have an opportunity to go through all of those options.
So when we look at the numbers, though, do we start checking off boxes like, okay, X company, X development? I mean, how do we approach the satisfying these 4 categories?
Yeah, we track all of the numbers, and we have to provide the annual report, so we track those and we provide an annual report to the state each year. So that's part of what we're doing tonight with this.
Last question: have we got any above moderate income developments yet?
Those would be basically the market rate, and so because we are no longer allowed by the state, for instance, to consider our ADUs going forward as low income, we consider them all to be above moderate, for instance.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Great, thank you. So we have before us a recommendation to receive the information and direct staff to submit an annual report to the California Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. May I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second?
Great. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stewart. We're going to move to number 14, item number 14, utility box beautification project details. Will staff please present the report once you get up to the table?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, members of the public. So item Item 14 is a follow-up to discussion and an item that was discussed at the February 18th, 2025 meeting. At that time, council considered REACH's request to approve a utility box beautification project. Council approved the request, which included the use of up to 25 hours of staff time and the waiver of any fees associated with city permits, but requested that a map of the proposed locations and additional information about artistic themes returned to council for their consideration. Subsequent to that meeting, staff communicated with REACH representatives to obtain that information. That information is included in the staff report and summarized here in this presentation. The project proposes to beautify a total of 8 utility boxes in the city, and REACH has identified 4 themes: military, Chumash, port, and nature, and is proposing that each theme would be applied to 2 of the utility boxes. The project map illustrates the proposed location for the boxes, and REACH has indicated that the location of each box is connected to the theme proposed for that location. For example, the box that will highlight the Bard family and its role in founding the port is located along Bard Road, and the box highlighting the importance of the Seabees is located adjacent to the CB Museum. So, once again, this is provided in response to council's request for a project map and additional information about the artistic themes associated with the project. It's recommended that the council receive this information, consider it, and provide whatever direction it deems appropriate to REACH.
If I can add just one comment, if you could go back one slide. So we want to thank both REACH and the council for bearing with us, because this is a new type of project, I think first of its kind for here in Port Hueneme, and so we're still trying to figure it out. And when we had come to the council previously, we sort of talked about, is there any further review of this? And I think REACH talked about the one concern they have is really not getting into a situation because they're going to have a limited budget where the city's asking for revisions or refinement to the art and that having a cost to it. And so we had proposed the idea of providing a map with the locations and the theme, which we received, and we appreciate that from REACH. I think looking at this and really thinking through next steps, I do recommend that the council consider tonight giving the approval or any modifications to this site map and moving forward with that, but with one requirement, which is I do think looking at this, one of our roles sometimes is to look for things that could be potentially controversial or that, that the city council should get eyes on before moving forward. And so we do recommend, or I'll say I recommend that the council ask for one final round of approval that the REACH, as they develop each, or their 8 pieces, that they bring a rendering of those 8 to the council. And I think the compromise we're asking for and that we're recommending is knowing our recommendation is that the council know that it's essentially a thumbs up or a thumbs down at that point for each of those, but knowing that REACH does not have the resources to keep making revisions. Mm-hmm. So we think that would be sort of a reasonable approach. Everybody, compromises often when both parties are not exactly happy with it, but in this case, I think the city's giving REACH some leeway to get this project going, but then REACH also gives the city one more chance just to say yes or no. So we do recommend that. Like I said, we apologize for sort of the process because it being a new process, we're sort of figuring it out and trying to find a way to make it work for everybody, but we do recommend that final approval.
Yeah, just quick question. So is it the intent to that REACH will submit all 8 at the same time, or will we be looking at them one at a time as they're complete?
My recommendation would be that they come back one time with all 8. Yeah. That it's better for agenda management, also easier for them. They don't have to come sit through 8 more meetings. So that would be our recommendation. Obviously, if something happens where they got 4 done and they, it was going to be a pause before the next 4 or something, we could talk to them about that. But we'd recommend just having one item where the 8 renderings come back, knowing that what we're approving tonight is the location and the theme for each of these.
Yes. Let's go with Councilmember Perez, and then we'll go to.
Yes, I would also encourage and recommend that when they're making the artwork for this, that they're talking to the appropriate parties or experts. For instance, Chumash. Talk to the appropriate Chumash tribal people in the area and get their buy-in on whatever art is being.
Yeah, and that's sort of why we had, as we took a look at it, we were thinking we really need like that one more approval. Is we know that themes with some of these groups, there might be other people who want to weigh in, or the public, or other stakeholders. So we can encourage them as part of that to talk to, for example, the military, the base about potentially the military themed one, or the VFW, or the Chumash about the Chumash theme. So.
Yes, Councilmember Gama.
That's exactly where I was going, and I would even take it one step further. I would suggest that we contact the tribal leaders and say, what would you like to see expressed on our boxes? Give them and same thing with the CBs, the Bard family, education. I imagine we could go to the Ventura County Office of Education and ask them, what would you like to see on there? And that way, at least we give them the control, because obviously there's certain protocols I know that the Chumash have in artwork depicting their culture, and they should be the ones dictating what artwork is going to go. And then, like, for Creek and nature, I don't know, I just feel like maybe we could get a little surf community, surfer somewhere. But I see the beaches doesn't have any boxes, but
The beach right there, number 7.
Number 7. Oh, okay. That's way away from the beach. But anyway, so I think we should encourage Reach to reach out to representatives of the most knowledgeable representatives of each of these themes, and ask them what they would like to see.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hernandez.
Is this comment or questions?
Just questions.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. City Manager, did you have this discussion already with Reach about making this recommendation?
No.
Because do we know if they're going to be using different artists on different boxes, or are they just using one artist? Because coming up with 8 renderings all at once, or even 4 all at once, might not accommodate their approach if they're going to be, especially if they're using different artists. So.
I think we do have some Reach representatives today, so.
Mr. Come on up to the mic. Yeah.
Hello. So I can give you a couple answers. First of all, we are going to go to all these different organizations. We're not going to do it. The artist is going to go to it. Whoever we choose to do the arting, they're going to have the conversation, and then come back to us. So that was always in the plans. What was the question again? What was the original question? Oh, one artist. We don't know. That's a good question. We don't know that. I know we have a couple that we're looking at. A part of the problem is their availability. We don't want to do it like tomorrow. We don't want to do it when it's raining. We want to do it in the summer where we know the stuff is going to dry properly. So that hasn't been decided yet.
Okay. My question was, is this recommendation in alignment with your plans for painting all 8 electrical boxes? Because you might have, will you have more than one artist? Do you plan on doing all 8 at once, or even 4 at once?
8 is pretty ambitious.
Trying to come back to council with renderings for our
Right.
approval seems, I don't know that it's realistic.
Yeah, 8 seems to be a little bit ambitious. Rich, you gotta. Oh, here comes. Now you're in trouble. Rich is coming.
Yeah, kind of like our overall approach is that we're going to be going out and marketing to get various different proposals from various different artists. We want to kind of review the artists to make sure that, you know, they're skilled, that they're skilled not only in artistry, but also working with the community, because each one of these is going to be tied in, say, with the Chumash community or with the military community. So we want that. We want a good buy-in on both parts. I don't look that we're going to be doing all 8 at once. So like on the month of May, you're going to see 8 of them out there. I think it would be ideal, but I think the approach of perhaps maybe taking 4 at a time, getting that solidly down as far as like the artwork, working with the community. We're looking to, you know, get, you know, the youth involved in it and stuff. So like when we're looking out to picking those artists, it may be a local junior college or college artist that we work with, because we're really trying to make this a very organic community thing. We're not trying to do, while we want it to be professional looking and stuff like that, we really want to involve the community so that everybody can feel proud and happy about it. Very non-controversial, that type of a thing. And I think one of the points that, I want to make special note of is the controversial theme. We want this something, again, that everybody can kind of buy into, that it doesn't there's not negative reactions and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's kind of our goal right now.
So I guess my question is, are you going to be able to come back to city council, as the city manager has recommended, and show us renderings so we give you the thumbs up and thumbs down on what goes on the utility boxes?
I think we'll be able to come back and give you renderings. I don't think we're going to be able to give you 8 at one shot.
Okay.
And you're okay with that?
About not doing 8 at one shot, or what?
Coming back to council for a thumbs up.
Oh, sure, because the council is also the community, and I want everybody to buy in. And you're going to be looking at talking to your constituents to get some kind of information, and we welcome your input, frankly, as far as getting this process. This is not something that's pre-designed or ordained that we're going to be doing this and this. We have some basic themes. We may find as we go into the community that some particular group has a whole new theme that we hadn't really thought of. And absolutely, we want to bring it back to the council because we want this to be a win-win process.
Great, thank you.
Are you going to, contact the high school art departments and work with them?
Yes, we're going to be a high school, the college, junior colleges, because, I think there may be some very aspiring artists in there that, this may be their first step in their careers.
At the museum over there at Channel Islands, every year I think the port sponsors it, the art contest, and there's phenomenal work there. So I think there's great talent at the high school level.
When we look at, this city council, there's some phenomenal artists, younger kids that, probably, and as, we look to get all of these people involved. And we're looking for your recommendations too. Like if you know of an artist that you think this would be a good fit for them, pass them over to us. I know like when I've been involved in doing these things in other communities, there's like a lot of different factors in creating the artists. Obviously they have the skills, also their ability to like work with the groups, in a successful manner. So there's a lot of different aspects to it to make it a good fit.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Great, thank you. So we have before us the recommendation, and I think what we're doing tonight is we're approving this map, and then along with the added recommendation that REACH brings back the renderings and maybe sets a for us to review with just a thumbs up, a thumbs down, not a make changes to. Okay, so that is the motion. Is there, that is the recommendation. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? I think we've had it already. All right, great. Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We're going to move to our final agenda item, Channel Islands Harbor Dredging Project Update. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, and it's a very simple report. I know we've talked about it a lot in bits and pieces, but we're trying to kind of just give a simple overview of the dredging project and where we currently stand and what the next steps are. And so just as some background, a reminder, because we use the word dredge all the time and we know it, but I know sometimes when we're talking to people who aren't familiar, it's not as clear what it is. So by the dredge project, we are referring to for us, the critical portion is the replenishment of sand at Hueneme Beach. It's a crucial project for Hueneme Beach nourishment, Channel Islands Harbor operations, for the Port of Hueneme's operations, and the Naval Base Ventura County's operations. And so it's critical for all of the those agencies within our community. So people may know and may have noticed that the dredge was ongoing through about February 28th. And the promenade was closed at Hueneme Beach through March 7th and reopened on March 7th. So we were successful in getting the dredge here and making sure that the dredge took place this year. The challenge we did have is that the volume dredged was lower than expected, lower than hoped for. We obtained approximately 900,000 to 1 million cubic yards of sand, which was short of the 2.4 million cubic yard goal. And on the next slide, I'll come back to this one, but we have a picture from pre-dredge on the left, October 4th, and you can see where it's just a very narrow strip of sand. And then on March 4th, which was essentially as soon as the dredge was complete, we were able to get pictures, and it's a noticeable improvement, but it's still not the level that we were hoping for and expecting. And so I know in the past the issue has been budget challenges, and I know a lot of people, we got a lot of comments this year about, what are we doing to get in front of the budget challenges related to the dredge? And both fortunately and unfortunately, and maybe frustratingly, so the issues this year were not the budget. There was a short period of time where there were some budget-related issues, but we jumped on those in partnership with the Channel Islands Harbor and the port, and with Congresswoman Brownlee's office to get those resolved quickly. And so that wasn't what caused any delays this year. What actually caused the delay were permitting challenges, essentially caused by the differences between state standards and federal standards, and a disagreement between the state and the federal agencies of whether or not each agency could apply their rules. And so it's a pretty major challenge when you talk about the state of California and the federal government arguing about something like that. But in partnership with the port, the harbor, the city, and others, we were able to get movement on that challenge. Our understanding was that challenge was actually causing issue across several projects, but we were able to sort of escalate it and get it resolved, where the state and federal groups came together and agreed that the project could proceed. But the challenge, or the shortage, was caused because that delay while that was occurring impacted our time frame. And obviously the question most people would have is, well, couldn't they have just stayed longer? But we are constrained by the environmental regulations due to the nesting season here at Hueneme Beach. So if they start late, they still have to leave on the same day. So that's essentially what happened this year. In the meantime, since the project completion, we have continued to advocate. We've had conversations with the Channel Islands Harbor, the Port of Hueneme, Army Corps of Engineers, and others to try to make sure we're continuing to advocate for for them to essentially return. Normally they come back every 2 years, but the idea this year would be for them to come back towards the end of 2025 in October or so. Our conversations with the Army Corps of Engineering was that is looking positive and that they are starting to prepare with the expectation that they would do that. But I think the Corps of Engineers and really most federal agencies right now they can't guarantee anything. I think we got some of that feedback from them that they are planning on it, but they can't guarantee it at this point, depending on what other things happen with at the federal level. And then I know I shared this with this email with the council, but we had that conversation with the Army Corps team that we were in communication with, and then Friday we were notified that Channel Islands Harbor and Mr. Michael Tripp from the harbor also had that conversation with his connections at the Army Corps of Engineer, and was essentially told the same thing, that they're all starting to prepare with the expectation that they come back in October. They just can't say that they guarantee it at this point. So we're all going to keep advocating. We're going to try to keep it on the radar and make sure that if there's any chance of it happening, that we are trying to make it happen. But I think it's one of those things that we won't get a guarantee until the week they show up, really. I think that's sort of our read of the situation right now. So the item was intended to provide an update. Really, the direction that we were recommending was just to continue to allow staff to advocate in partnership with the other agencies involved. I think we all are advocating and want to continue to advocate, and we'll all try to do what we can to make sure that they are able to come back later this year. So that is the dredge update.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Let's go with Councilmember Hernandez, and then we'll go to Councilmember Gama.
So I sent some questions, I think, earlier, or maybe I just sent one question, but I have some additional questions. Did the numbers that are included in this report from past years on the number of million cubic yards that we received, does that include the additional sand that comes from the port, or is it just the harbor numbers? Because those are two separate projects.
Mm-hmm. So my understanding is that's the total cubic yards that were provided to our beach. So we don't have statistics on the source, which ones came from which of the projects. That was the total sand each of those years.
Okay, can we get that information so we know what is coming actually from the dredging of the harbor versus the dredging from the port?
Yeah, we could reach out to those
That does, I
agencies.
sometimes increase the amount of sand that we're looking at when we include the port numbers. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Gama.
So if they can't come back October 25,
Yeah. Yes.
then they would be back 27? So my question is, if they can't come back, then we're just going to go back to 2-year cycle?
It is on a 2-year cycle. The idea is that they would come back at the midpoint this time only.
Right.
So
And then would they then come back on the regular 2-year cycle?
2026.
I think the county was working on a plan. I don't know if
I'm sorry. Yeah, on the regular cycle. I don't remember now if that's 26 or 27, but it would be on the regular cycle. So the idea wasn't to replace it. It was just to supplement with additional dredge in October.
All right, and so if they don't come back in October 25, then our next window would be October 26 or 27.
I believe it's October 26th, but it's what I intend to say is it's the 2-year cycle that we're on. So I believe that would be October 2026, but now yeah, because it started October 2024.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes. First is Stacy Lang.
Sorry, I'm a little short here. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and City Manager Vega. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Stacy Lang, Chief Commercial Public Affairs Officer at the Port. First of all, thank you for the detailed summary. I just wanted to share that currently this week, the executives from our government team in the Port are in DC for a unrelated meeting, but they actually have scheduled a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers specifically in order to help really fully support this. So just wanted to share with you that that is going on behind the scenes. We've got a meeting on Thursday scheduled. It's got Kristen Dekas, our Port CEO, Jason Hodge, one of our harbor commissioners, and the government affairs team that are all really working. And as you mentioned, we've really been in lockstep with you when we found this issue with the language that set it back. And we really want to continue to work with you and make sure that we are doing what we can to push this forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vianney Lopez.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and staff. Just wanted to echo the comments from Stacy on behalf of the board and as the county supervisor representing this area. I want to appreciate you bringing this up, for public discussion and just affirming the importance of what dredging means for our community here in Port Hueneme and the harbor, the naval base, the Channel Islands Harbor. And I just want to extend that support that we're all working together and ensuring that we have that funding provided to the county. The dredging item has a specific budget line item request on our legislative platform, which was approved in January at our board meeting. And it is on, our budget request is on a 2-year cycle, the legislative platform, but it is something that we will continue to advocate for and working in partnership with the city through our government affairs team as well and our lobbyist in DC who came out here in December. And so this is definitely one of the key issues that I've raised to ensure that it continues to receive the attention necessary to support the community here. So just want to reiterate that support and look forward to working together in partnership with all the stakeholders to ensure that we get that mid-cycle dredging project completed as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Great, thank you. So we have before us this is the recommendation to receive an update on the Channel Islands Harbor Dredging Project and provide direction. And so I think the direction is we're going to keep moving and keep communicating and collaborating.
Correct.
May I have a motion and a second to receive?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to make a comment that I hope that, Mr. City Manager, that you don't have to spend 80 hours doing advocacy, that you can work closely through the county and use their lobbyists, so you didn't, don't overextend yourself. So thank you.
Great. Any other comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
So the port, thank you for the advocacy at DC right now. That is awesome. And BNA, thank you from the county. Appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll just echo that. Thank you for your help in this.
Yeah, ditto. All right. If there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, can we please take a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. And so we're going to move on to City Manager comments and reports.
Thank you. I have a couple of items, quick items. Thank you. So the big one is this weekend is the Community Benefit Fund partnership with City and the Port, Sea Splash Color Dash 5K. I'm still having a hard time saying that, but it's the 5K starts at 9 a.m. this Saturday. The 1K for kids starts at 10:30 a.m. and the Health and Wellness Fair will go throughout the event from 9:30 to 12:30. So we know we have about 743 people registered. So hopefully everybody comes out to run. If you didn't register, you can still come out and check out the Health and Wellness Fair. And we hope to see everybody there this Saturday. I know the turnout was great last year, and it sounds like it's actually going to be even better this year. So we hope to see everybody there.
Mr. City Manager, regarding that, if we registered to run, is it transferable? No, I have a good reason. I'm also working a booth and giving out berries to the runners. So
I think we can. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I'll find out, and we'll try to make it happen since it's for a good reason. We wanted to give an update on Surfside Motel. I think people probably may have seen the newspaper article on this week, so we just wanted to give our community a little bit of an update. Our city team went out on site and well, in short, we performed an inspection back in January. We saw potential health and safety issues that required us to sort of escalate and bring in our full team. So we went back out on March 4th and inspected with our full team, and we found pretty severe violations, including lack of water, heat, and unsafe living conditions. So people may have noticed a large city team was out there on March 4th. We essentially immediately went to work red tagging and yellow tagging the property as a result of the inspection. And we are currently working with the property owner to try to get the tenants who were there relocated and to make sure that they're getting the relocation benefits that they should get. And so that's something our team is currently working on right now and trying to make sure everybody gets out of there and into safer conditions. And then that's really to address the serious violations that we saw on that day. It's also to make sure that people aren't living in those conditions. But we know the next question people may have is, well, what's next on this property? You know, how can the city move this forward? And we have our team working aggressively every day. We're going back and forth to try to move this project forward and make sure that it doesn't continue to just stall out and be a nuisance, really, for lack of a better word. So we will be working with the property owner aggressively to try to make sure that the project moves forward in the appropriate way. What we have said to people is if people do see any code compliance issues or any criminal activity, I think one thing that's happened is people got so used to seeing some of the issues that they stopped calling the city about them. And we will be out there ourselves and proactively, but if any members of the public do see issues, we're encouraging everybody to let us know because we will continue to work to address those issues and to make sure to document and respond to those issues as soon as possible. So we just want to let people know, we know that's been a hot topic for a long time. And these were some of the photos from our inspection. You can see some of the conditions that really just people should not be living in. So we're going to continue to try to address those. On a more positive note, with the Beach Fest permit being approved today, we have also gotten our vendor applications information up, and so vendors can apply for Beach Fest now. The application deadline is March 27th, which is coming up quicker than people may realize, so we're asking people to, we're trying to get the word out so people can apply for vendor applications. And then at the same time, we've also just launched the community poster contest, as Mr. Montalongo mentioned, with the deadline for that of April 24th. So there's still about a little more than a month on that. So we want to get the word out to all of our local students. We have prizes for high school, junior high, and elementary level. So any local student should be able to participate in that poster event. And then a couple more quick items. One is think it might be the second time. I don't think it's the first, but we're having a rock painting event Sunday the 23rd at noon at the museum. And so I think it's the second time they've done it. And the registration fee is $5. It's at 220 Market Street. And again, Sunday the 23rd at noon, we'll be having the rock painting event. And then we also just wanted to let the public know, we had heard at one point that there was a line for the fire pits and some people were having trouble accessing them. We were able to, we had gotten a pretty good deal on the fire pits, less than we had expected, so we had remaining budget for the fire pits, so we were able to get the 2 additional fire pits for the approved budget, and so those 2 additional fire pits were placed at Hueneme Beach last week. We didn't do a big announcement because we seem to have this bad luck where we always put the fire pits out on the day it's rainy. So that happened again. So we didn't announce it publicly yet, but we probably will announce it this week. So anybody who's watching and hasn't been able to use the fire pits, get out there in the next couple days before we announce them. They're out there now and ready to use. And then for April 7th, here's what our agenda is looking like at this point. We do have 3 presentations scheduled: Fair Housing Month proclamation, the Autism Awareness Month proclamation, and the State of the Port presentation by Port CEO Kristen Dekas. And then there's a few notable consent calendar items, some projects, public works projects. The interesting one is the turf turnkey grant for City Hall and Miranda Park. We'll get more into it at the next council meeting, but it's a opportunity that came in handy where the city last year adopted new landscaping standards for the city, and it's an attempt to have more water conservation focused landscaping. And it just so happened when we adopted those that there was a grant opportunity from I think it was Cayugas Water District, but we'll give more information, to actually fund some cities trying to do some demonstration projects to show the communities what like water conservation projects could look like. So we have a good opportunity for one of those, and we'll bring that forward at the next council meeting. And then for business items, we're bringing our mid-year budget review at that meeting. We also had talked about scheduling an annual review of the Council Policy and Procedures Manual, so that will be the second annual review will be scheduled that meeting. And then we're bringing the Veterans Advisory Commission options and the centenarian, which is a fancy word I had to learn for 100th birthday proclamation policy. And so we'll bring those items back to council on April 7th. And that's all I have.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. We'll move on to council member reports. We'll start with Councilmember Perez.
Thank you. The one committee I was able to attend, which is the Federal Outreach Advisory Council, was literally a 20-minute discussion on the update on the House's debate over the continuing resolution and its implications for defense funding and operations. And it lasted 20 minutes, and then it was over. Hopefully more to discuss the next time around.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Gama.
I think last meeting I reported on our Beacon meeting. Then we're having another Beacon meeting this Friday, right, Vianney? I think we fell behind, but there's nothing new report there.
Excuse me, do you have fee increase coming up on your next agenda? Yes?
I think so, yeah.
Someone,
But it's not going to be, it's going to be minimal. There was a plan to move forward a little more aggressively, but that plan has been abandoned. The unique thing about Beacon is you can't have a fee increase unless you have unanimous consent among all the members. So I think the message was received loud and clear that budgets are kind of a little tricky right now, and so I think it's just going to be a COLA increase if I'm correct, right? Yes. And
on the Sand Summit?
And we're going to be discussing the Sand Summit, trying to determine that. which is great. So we're talking about dredging, Sand Summit, and all the vernaculars that are involved, and really appreciate the effort that everybody's putting in on this dredge situation. A couple of meetings ago, we reviewed our port agreements, Mr. City Manager, and I think we had a few questions that we couldn't answer ourselves, and we sent them over to our friends at the Port of Hueneme. Have we gotten a response on those yet?
I haven't yet. We had talked about it a couple days after, so I'll send a reminder.
Okay, I was just following up on that. I was checking my notes. And good things are happening at Ventura County Animal Services. Our new director he's an amazing guy. He came up with this idea to help move our overcrowded animals out of state to areas where they're in need of animals. And then I noticed that other jurisdictions are doing it now. And so it's great. I went over to just take a walk, check out all the dogs over there, and the place is beautiful. We have a great expansion plan coming together. Originally, everybody, including myself, we need to have a Taj Mahal of animal services, and let's put it near the freeway. So everyone, after a lot of long thought, it's like, you know what, we have enough room here at the airport, and let's just make our existing area better, bigger, and more modern. So that's all beginning to happen. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Over the last 2 weeks, I attended two legislative discussions, one through the local communications membership committee through SCAG, and then today I attended one through Cal Cities, and I also attended the Cal Cities get-together of Channel Counties on Friday night up in Goleta, and heard from Assemblyman Greg Hart, and also heard from Congressman Salud Carbajal. And there's a lot going on in the area of legislation and legislative bills that are going through the House right now, the House and the Senate. I just wanted to call out a few, just so staff can be alerted that these are bills to watch for. And I will have the handout, which I'll pass on to the city manager for specific numbers. So there's one piece of legislation that's going to address parking requirements for ADUs to make sure that there's plenty of parking when we approve ADUs for the residents of those ADUs. City attorney billing, transparency and city attorney billing is also, there's some legislation coming down the pike on that. K-9 unit compliance, new compliance requirements under post. Major changes with the Brown Act are being proposed. We have new administrative policies regarding the homelessness programs. I think they're switching offices. And then, of course, water is always an issue. I also attended the VCOG meeting, and we talked about broadband planning and the last mile connection. Thank you for the information from Aaron. Please extend my thanks. It was quite useful. There is a grant that's available through broadband that they won't be applying for us. The applicant, as the city, would have to apply for it. So I'll send you that information as well. And then VCOG is assessing their assessment fee. It's going to be increased approximately by $550, not a whole lot. So that's good. I'm also working with REACH on a grant for another mural, and we're hoping that we can get off the ground a mural that honors the life of Orving Carpenter. So you'll hear more about that. It's in the very, very early stages. And then I wanted to bring to the council's attention that in June, the Army Corps of Engineers are going to be celebrating their 250th anniversary. So we might want to consider a proclamation for them in June. And that's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I didn't attend any committee meetings, but I did go to coffee with Steve Bennett here in Hueneme locally. We had a small turnout, but a lot of good information was passed. And my hope is that as these, our assemblymen come and visit, we're a little more active. I did meet with former Mayor Bobby Martinez, councilman, with Sister City. He had his entourage from Puerto Vallarta, and we got to tour the robotics. The first robotics at the port. That was awesome. At that event, for people who don't know, we actually have a Hueneme team at the Hueneme High School, Thunder Vikes, and they're poorly funded, so we're gonna have to work on that. I've been talking with Jonathan Soto, and he's a school teacher. He's one of the members there, and gonna work on some grants for him. And that was it.
Wonderful, thank you. Couple of things. So I am back to all my meetings.
Here.
All my meetings. I attended the 83rd CB Ball, which was wonderful. I had a great time. I participated this week with the Navy League luncheon. They had a luncheon in celebration also of the 83rd CB birthday. I completed, I think, my FPPC 700 forms with the extended version, so that was kind of tricky, so I think I'm done with that. I'll be attending one of two budget meetings with VCTC on Monday. I'll be literally leaving that office, headed to the airport for the trip to DC with RDP, and I'll be returning on the 27th. I am unable to attend this weekend's event, and so just want to let you all know that. And I think that is it. All right. So anyone else? Did you have anything? Yes.
One thing. Tomorrow morning, I'm up at 5 o'clock to head to the airport to go to Sacramento for 2 days with the League of California Cities. No, I'm going with SCAG. I get them confused. I'm going with SCAG, and I'll be there through late Wednesday doing some lobbying with the group.
Great.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
I forgot as well. I just want to thank the City of Oxnard, Surfrider, Morito Foundation, Coastal Keepers. They're really putting in a lot of effort in at Perkins Road. Hueneme Beach Cleanup is out there every Saturday, and so we're now shouting to each other across the lagoon, and it is one of the cleanest winter beach trash situations that we had in a long time, and everybody's like kicking into high gear, and I really appreciate all that volunteerism that's prevalent in our community.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to requests for future agenda items. Councilmember Perez, do you have anything?
Do we want to approve a proclamation for arthritis awareness for May?
Yeah. Is there a motion? Okay. All right. Can we get a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Councilmember Gama?
I'll make the proclamation request for Army Corps of Engineers for June.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I need a second. Second. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, and I don't have anything. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, if there's nothing else, our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m. The meeting is now adjourned. It's 9:27.